order. First order of business, I need to read an excerpt of the open meeting law and meeting via this platform. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law GLC 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order concerning imposition on a strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting will be conducted via this platform, Zoom. So, as I said, I want to welcome everyone here. And do we have any other commissioners in the house? Owner or 856702? Any commissioners? Make yourself known, please. All right. So on this agenda, we do not have meeting minutes to approve, but we can put those. Mary did send out the December 21st. So please, by next meeting, review those. Any comments, bring them to the next.
Actually, Joey, we do have, Kelly posted an updated agenda with at least the 21st ones on. Kelly, did you put November 9th too?
No, I think it was just the 21st.
Okay.
On the revised agenda.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
So we can look at those if people have had a chance to look at them.
All right. I'm sorry about that. I have actually reviewed the 21st of December, so we'll start with that. Does anybody have discussion? Have you reviewed it?
I have, and it's okay.
Okay. So would that be a motion?
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from December 21st, 2020 as written.
Okay. And
I'll second.
okay,
I did have a chance to go through them.
great. And we
All
want
right. Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Wigglesworth.
yes. And has anyone reviewed the meeting minutes for, you said November 9th, Mary?
Yeah, I don't think we sent them around, so
Okay. All right, so we'll put that on the burner for next meeting. And anyone on here, if you want to make note, next meeting will be Monday, February 1st at 5:30. Same time, same place. All right, so request for determinations of applicability, also known as RDAs. I'm going to call on the board clerk to read what he needs to read to inform the public.
in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act. This public meeting tonight was being held to review two RDAs for whether the project is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and the local wetland bylaw. We also have a number of notices of intent, and we'll be reviewing those also.
Okay, with that said, we're gonna start this off. 30 South Point Road, Jerry Evans, the applicant, construction of an accessory structure with cantilever deck. This is continued from January 4th. I believe we do have Jerry. Jerry, are you on the line?
I'm here.
All right. So I believe, Mary, you've got the plans for this, and just in a moment, Jerry, review the plans, ask any questions, and if you've got, if you want to present your project.
Okay, so you want to review the plans first?
Can you see the plans?
Yep.
Mary, you gotta just blow it up a bit.
Okay.
Maybe actually open, seems like you're in a double browser there.
Yeah, something weird happened. I don't know what happened. And let me just stop the share and start it again.
Okay.
Is that better?
Okay. So we got South Point Road, looks like to the north.
North is this way, yeah, and here's,
Yep.
here's the proposed structure.
Okay,
And here's the existing house,
okay,
and there's the lake, and if you remember, I have pictures, but if you remember, this is a steep slope here.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking to, is this going to be a shed? Is this going to be a garage?
It's not going to be a garage. It's going to start
Okay.
off, it's going to start off as as an unfinished shed, but we are thinking of finishing it off down the road just to have some additional space. 2 years ago, we had filed a notice and then had built the new house that's on the property. We made the house a little bit smaller.
Okay,
Then it was there to have some additional parking. And then a little old thing called COVID came along, and we're now working from home, and we can use a little bit more additional space. We're just not sure specifically what the outcome of the space we need will be.
okay,
But it won't be big. It's not big enough for a garage. We can't even swing a car in due to the road, and it won't even have garage doors on it. It'll have a single man door.
okay.
And a door going out to the deck.
Actually, I just noticed the size. It's 12 feet by 16. Commissioners, if you didn't notice that. May I ask, how big are you looking at the deck coming off the back? And how is that structure going to be supported?
So the deck will be 4 feet by the 12 feet width. It'll be a cantilever deck, meaning that with a 16-foot run of the flooring, we could have a 4-foot cantilever over, so we won't be requiring any posts to be put in the ground to support on the slope.
Yep.
And all of the posts will be, I'm not sure if you're familiar, we actually have it on site here now with the other decks we built, but it's a metal helical post that's twisted into the ground. There's no excavation for any of the holes to pour any concrete for any of the support structures we have. So there'll be no digging. It will be just basically boring these into the ground.
Okay. Are you planning on putting any type of, and I think there's crushed stone in that spot now. Are you going to keep crushed stone underneath that deck?
Yep, we'll be expanding the crushed stone all the way to the fence.
Okay,
So that when we're done, basically the entire front has the 3/4 stone, and then you can just see going over the slope there in the picture, that's where it will meet up with the riprap going down. So it will be pervious.
okay. And there's a small little berm there. Yeah, I was going to ask, there's a small little berm there to catch any particular, those small stones that could travel.
Yes.
Okay. And this was what, Mary, 30 feet back from the resource?
I was guessing approximately 24.
Okay,
Yeah, you can see where you can see in this picture. So here's the closest corner, and there's the slope. It's at the edge of the slope. But
Shouldn't that be on the plan?
the slope,
No, the distance from the water.
yeah. Yeah, I measured it off the plan. The 24, yeah. This is an RDA, so it would maybe not quite as technical on our requirements, but yeah, it could be on the plan.
okay. I would obviously recommend, best management practices with erosion sediment control, which would be silt fence, straw wattle. The grade there is not too bad. Commissioners, do you have any any questions that I didn't ask? It's pretty,
Well, I'm trying to figure out, like, if the water flows off this deck, does it
Yep.
actually hit the stone? And that, especially where we're looking where the stone and the riprap are really close together.
yep.
I'm a little concerned about the runoff from the deck. Like, is it gonna go through into the stone? Is it gonna go kind of to the edge and fall off the edge?
We're gonna look at too, Michelle, that there's a heavy riprap on that shoreline.
Yeah.
And on that embankment, so even if it did go over the berm, you know, it's not flying right down into the lake. It's actually finding its way through the crevices. Out of curiosity, Mr. Evans, the structure, how is its roof line going to, what's it going to look like? Is it going to be, A-frame like your house, like what we're looking at? Is it going to be a salt box style where it's a little bit, a small roof in the front and a longer one in the back, and the roof kind of drains onto the deck?
So it'll mirror our existing house. If you see the box out windows, the triple
Yes.
box out windows, it'll have that as a structure facing us, facing the house.
Okay.
Other than that, it's a square. The gable runs from the lake to the road. So the water will be shedding if you're
Oh.
facing it to the right and the left. So
Okay.
it'll be going into won't be going onto the deck, it'll be going onto the stones on either side
That's the better,
before it hits the riprap.
yeah, that's the better solution. Rather than having the water coming right down onto the deck and allow it to percolate a little bit. Mary, can you show that first photograph again? I would probably, seeing how this is all spray painted out. I mean, it's probably just preliminary, but I would definitely make sure that there's at least 3 to 6 inch of crushed stone on each side.
Okay,
It'll act as a dissipator for the water coming off the roof. And get
Yeah,
down.
adding
down
the crushed stone in there would also give you rainwater retention.
Yeah,
There's no Cultex going in with this. So I would probably recommend closer to 6 inches.
okay,
Give you that square footage, 3 inches of capacity, which is probably going to be, and if you got that on both sides, that would actually be enough to take the 1 inch of rain from the actual structure.
that's a good point. Thank you, Fred.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
I do have a question. I'm sorry, I was late, so I don't know if you've already answered this. Is there going
it's
to be a
hidden.
foundation for this type of, for this structure?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I didn't understand.
Are you guys going to be pouring any type of foundation, or is this going to be built, on gravel?
It's not going to be built on the gravel, and I'm not pouring any foundation. We're using metal helical driven piles into the ground, and then we'll be posting off of that.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Now, my other question is you had mentioned that you don't know how you're going to use the structure. Are you guys going to be bringing power out there?
We are going to bring power to it, yes.
Okay, so are you guys, I'm assuming you're going to trench the power line?
No, we've requested from National Grid a second overhead line,
Okay,
and we're awaiting their approval.
okay. That was my question. I wasn't sure if we were going to be digging for a power line.
Okay, good point.
This will be going before zoning for, see how close it is to the street.
It is pretty close to the street. So I'm assuming, I'm just guessing it's probably gonna need a variance.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would just, make a recommendation here. If National Grid prefers that you put a line between the house and the building, and you need to dig, just let us know.
Okay, will do.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I'm good.
All right. Anyone else? All right, can we get a motion on 30 South Point Road?
I motion for a negative determination of applicability for 30 South Point Road.
A second.
Okay,
Great. Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes,
Mr. Bach,
Yes,
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Brown.
Abstain.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Wigglesworth.
yes. Okay, so, Mr. Evans, thank you very much for reaching out to us and filing with us. Obviously, you're gonna need you'll need a DEP number, and it will need to be posted. No work can start until 10 days after you've received your order of conditions, which Mary will get to.
Joey, this is
Okay.
an RDA, so
Oh, yep, sorry.
no DEP number either.
Yep, sorry. I'm looking at something else. All right. All right, very good. So, Mary, you'll be in touch with them?
Yeah.
Okay, because you want to do silt fence and straw wattle, obviously. All right, so next up, 72 Sutton Road, Teresa Wolverson. Removal of trees and excavation of soil from the Grand Trunk Railway on their property. Teresa, you there?
Yes, hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. So obviously, Fred and Michelle and myself, we were out at your beautiful property, honestly.
Thank you.
And we obviously met with your husband and we talked about, what the potential plans are going forward, because we've seen a lot of activity on your property. So it was stated that any more excavation was going to be stopped, and you were just looking to sort of grade that area and maybe put some loam down.
Yeah.
To grow some grass.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did talk about tree removal. The gentleman that was there, Mark, and your husband also mentioned that there are some trees that are down in some of the areas near your home that aren't far from the stream. So that, obviously, I'm assuming that this wood is going to be removed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of snags there. Snags are fallen trees. And then I'm assuming you're going to use those large stones, maybe somewhere on your property for.
I don't know what we're not gonna get rid of them. They're just gonna be laid out somewhere. I don't know where.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so there's that, and then trees on top of the actual former Grand Trunk Railway. I know your husband had said that you guys were done with cutting trees.
Yeah.
But, I told him that, under the RDA, the permit can be for 3 years. So if you plan.
No, like he said the other day, he doesn't want to do any more. Like he just where it is where we use the soil for the other property. He just wants to tidy that up. Like that guy has to get in and finish his work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully by spring we can put soil, topsoil down and make it nicer looking.
Okay, so you do have some erosion controls on when you're walking down the trunk, obviously on the right-hand side. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, like, is Mark planning on going right into this area?
No, only the area that you see the work. Mark won't be near there. He only put that there because Mary told him to.
Okay,
Because of the stream over here.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not even near where he did all the work. You told him to do that before he did. But
yeah, okay,
he's not
Alright.
going anywhere near there. Only the area that you took pictures of.
okay.
The work was done.
All right, so it was a good visit. Got a lot of information out of your husband. He was very informative. We did talk about possibly coming back. He's got some concerns of where the flow of stormwater occurs at the far, I guess it's sort of the south of your property. And we did mention, just so you know, Mary, that probably April we'll come back out, or you can visit there and sort of kind of get an idea of what's going on and what he's talking about, and see if there, what can possibly be done, and if there's any effect on Club Pond from this, on their property from that. So that was something we talked about when we were there. So I'm thinking that we just need to issue the RDA for and allow them to just finish cleaning up the site, getting it stabilized, reseeded. There were a couple down trees near their yard. Obviously, those will need to be cleared out, but as long as, and I mentioned this to Aaron and Mark, that, equipment that is getting closer to the wetland, you will need to put up erosion and sediment control. So,
As well as a spill kit.
yeah, I need a spill kit there. So, and the spill kit, Teresa, just so you know, and your husband probably knows what it is. It's if one of those machines were to break a hydraulic line or brake line, or any kind of leakage from them.
Yeah.
It's a way to absorb it and stop it from heading to areas you really don't want it to go to. That's a prevention method, a prevention mechanism rather. Do the commissioners that did not go out on the visit have questions? Okay.
No, I'm all set.
Okay, and Fred and Michelle, any input or anything else?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay,
Nothing for me.
all right. So do we want to make a motion of approving an RDA for the Wolversons at 72 Sutton Road for finishing their downed tree removal and stabilizing their lot?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I second it.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes,
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, Teresa. Please let Mr. Wolverson know that we said hello and thank you.
Okay.
And if you've got questions,
Well, I just have a quick question. Is there a time limit. I want it done I can't talk, as soon as possible, but I know the winter days and whatever, hopefully I want it done by spring and all that, but is there a limit, a date, like, when do you want me to push
This,
Mark to do it?
this permit is good for 3 years. But
Oh,
the
I won't let him go any further than
sooner,
spring.
yeah, the sooner you get that area set and stabilized and your work completed, the better. And then
Okay.
if something comes along where, you know, you're near that wetland area that that we obviously,
Yeah, I'm not letting them near that. Don't.
but if, you know, a tree comes down, you guys want to take it
Yeah,
there or something, you know, just let us know. Just
Yeah.
partner with
Well,
us.
that tree, like on the yard, like where the wind, when the storm took it down, that you saw
Yeah.
it, the big one.
Oh, yeah.
Mark can remove that for us, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's the only big tree that's taken.
Yeah,
up the
you've
whole-
got several there that are, you know, coming down from the wind whipping through there.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, well, I'm fine with everything. Thank you so much.
oh, you're very welcome, and have a great winter. Stay safe.
All right,
Be in touch, okay?
okay, thank you so much.
All right, no problem. Have a good night.
Night.
Okay, folks, we are on to public hearings, notices of intent, also known as NOIs. First up is 124 Gore Road, Richard and Erica Weil. This is a continuance from January 4th, construction of a single-family home, including a wetland crossing. Is anyone on the line for 124 Gore Road? Excuse me, 124 Gore Road, one last call. All right, we'll put that off and see if they come later. I believe Bruce is here for 137 Gore Road, Twisted Piston, site stabilization, stream restoration, and we've got some photographs from our, I'm gonna be honest with you, not so great visit on Sunday. So Mary will bring them up and I'll cover them with you, Bruce. The biggest concern, I think, with this site, aside from it's, you know, we've got some leaky vehicles and tidiness, there is stability issues around there. But if you remember, we talked about this area and no snow plowing. So, and this was Sunday, so clearly snow went there from the last big storm. Yeah, there's this one here too. There's a lot of up along that stream. There's a lot of debris, fragments of roadway, junk, obviously all of that leaf matter and whatnot. And then, you know, you can kind of see erosion happening there from a little bit from, it's not necessarily from the street. It's from his parking lot. So I wanted to make sure that I got this photograph in here. Because I mean, it was always, it's from the roadway, it's from the roadway. A little bit is probably from the roadway, but this is coming off his parking lot. So Mary, if you this one. In the back, as you probably know from the site, there is a lot of gravel. We've got obviously some contaminated gravel here. It probably should be taken out of there in a bucket. And this is in several spots throughout the site. So this here, Bruce, is in the back kind of an awkward picture. We did walk up top. Up top is stabilized. But along here is where we're seeing a lot of rocks and soil starting to come off of the hillside. And there's a couple better pictures. So here's that that area, different angle, and we've got obviously some Detroit riprap going on here with the doors. Not a good method, obviously, for erosion control. When we were told before that he was gonna take large boulders from somewhere and kind of anchor this area up. Now it's just sort of left for the elements. You can keep going, Mary. So this is what it looks like heading down towards his, you know, it looks like a metal dumpster and then his regular dumpster. And you can see all along there. And then behind the dumpster, it could become an erosion nightmare. Some more Detroit riprap. Good advertisement for Ford. Now, right here, and this is, I'm not sure how we could probably, and I would probably, I don't know if Brandon is nearby and looking at this, but this is where water is coming out of the hillside. And it's really making the embankment loose. And I think it's part of, it could be part of, you know, from playing around with the, you know, the hydrologic connection that's up there. And there are a few known springs that are on this hillside, but now that he's dug away in the back there, several feet, we're having, when we get large rainstorms, the water is coming out of there like it's a small little tiny creek. So that's a concern of ours. And then of course you can see the larger boulders towards the top. They're ready to slide. And then next one, Mary. There's two of them. There was the one I just showed you. Here's the second one. And the top did slide. And you can see how it's coming down and over this rock that he put in the back. And, you know, this stuff is, you know, the site in general needs to be kind of cleaned up. But more importantly, there's water erosion coming off the back there, and we don't know what's in some of these containers, batteries and whatnot. Different view of that second one I told you about. Here's that along where we talked about before, where he should probably put his snow storage. This was a pretty fresh area of oil starting to really kind of get into the pavement. But all along there, we've got concerns of stabilization. You know, it's eroding underneath there, and you can even start to see some of the trees starting to lean with whatever soil is there that they're trying to hold on to. And what else have we got, Mary? Same picture, you can see the water traveling, coming off the hillside. Next one, Mary. So this one here was important. Obviously, in a natural setting, you have rocks, you have debris, in your stream, your creek, your river, what have you. But we're wondering if some of the larger rocks that are in here should maybe just, some of them, not all of them, taken out a bit, particularly this area where the water's coming down, it's being blocked by the rocks going around and it's cutting underneath here. And there was a lot of erosion and you could see a lot of the sand in the lower left corner, excuse me. And then some of the other spots, you can really tell they've sort of slid into the corridor, the stream corridor. And a couple more, Mary. Same thing here. It's eroding. It's coming away. Next one. All of the dirt being carried down to the culvert that's at the bottom there. This is just, this photo's, it's a little out of sync, but this is the area that really should be cleaned up. There's a lot of trash. From him plowing here for so long, you can see the pieces of pavement, and literally 2 feet from it, you've got the stream. So next one.
I think that was it.
Okay. And then one thing that probably should happen is that culvert there, any sand deposits that are there should probably be cleaned out. On at least on his side, because some is obviously coming off of Route 16 Gore Road, but a lot has gone down to that culvert and has actually made its way to the wetland across the street, and we've got now a development that's going to be going in there. So there's going to have to be some, we got to kind of figure out a plan on one side of the road and then fix the problem on the other. But we don't have so much traveling from 137 to 124. It's better. So I think you see where we're coming from. There's a lot of erosion there. So commissioners, do we have, aside from the photographs I took, I think it pretty much tells the story that it's still an unstable site. It's, that there's leaking. He's taking apart vehicles there. And if he's doing that, it probably should be on the dumpster side, not on that side. As far away from the brook or creek as possible. But I think trying to find a plan of how to stabilize that in and around there it may be a challenge. So.
I'd like to mention one of the things that I think is an issue is along the back of the lot there where that trench was put with the crushed stone, and it has a PVC drain in it that runs down to the channel.
Yeah.
Parking vehicles on top of that drain pipe and issues with things like old batteries and indeterminate materials that are placed right next to it. I would think that it would be best if he no longer put those kind of materials right next to the drain, which is running right down to essentially to the lake.
As we know, this is it's a very old site, and it's, unfortunately, it's a challenging site, and it's really unfortunate that he decided to start to peck around with what was essentially stable. But I think that, there needs to be some sort of he's got to kind of think of his site, think of its proximity, and, you know, dedicated areas for certain things. You know, and I mean, I understand people, you know, needs to do a business, and I feel bad. He just, you know, he just had an issue there with a fire, and, you know, I don't know what his plans are. But, you know, he needs to be mindful of his location and what he's putting where. And it just seems like there should be a cleaner.
Know if any of those items that are currently being stored outside are actually stored there because of the fire?
Well, I will tell you that several people live on Gore Road and down near Kildare, and I drive through there every week, and he's had those cars there, and actually even more. In the last, probably I'd say 3 to 4 months, because I noticed it went from kind of an empty lot to suddenly now we've got a lot of trucks, and they were all like back to back for a while. And some went away, and then he's got some that he's taken apart right there. So, and I mean, it is it's part of his business. We get it, but it probably, some activity should probably happen on the other side, and he's gonna have some sort of mechanisms in place for operating a garage to clean up spills. And not just leave them there to, you know, head down into the water table. So I think that we could, I mean, if you're comfortable, I think that we could probably issue conditions to get him, you know, but issue conditions with timelines. And we're gonna have to hold firm to timelines. And he, you know, has had to obviously file this NOI at the direction of the section chief of DEP. So here we are, we're trying to now months and months later, so he blew by her deadline. And so I think that, you know, it's probably prudent that we put together conditions and put timelines on them. And then if he can't satisfy them and communicate with us, then it's gonna have to get turned over. And we're gonna have to have DEP just really come in and work with him. So, I mean, that's kind of my recommendation. I mean, how does the board feel about that? Any comments and input on that? I mean, this has been on our agenda since before I got on the board. So we're looking at more than 3 years.
Yeah, I think I agree that his situation is unfortunate, and but as you just said, it would not be as unfortunate if he had taken action way back when, a long time ago. And, you know, he's, for whatever reason, and maybe not all his fault, but still, it's been put off and put off and put off. And at some point, you have to say, you need to get this done.
Anyone else? So do we want to, Bruce, do you want to work on putting together, do you want us to put together a list of conditions with dates and get it to you?
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I mean, any outstanding issues, put them in the order of conditions, and yeah, timeline, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so obviously we know there's an issue with the stream. There'll be a condition in there, and then of course site stabilization all around, and we can add in some of the other things I pointed out there. And we can line it all out, and then, have him record the order of conditions, and we'll have a condition in there that he has to. We want to make sure that people are recording their orders. And then we'll just see where we get. And if he's got questions, he can contact our office. Does that sound good with the board?
Good.
All right, because this is a public hearing, is there any abutters that have comments on 137 Gore Road? Twisted Piston? Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
Okay. Can we get, oh, sorry, Mary, go ahead.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Okay, can we get a motion to issue an order of conditions for site stabilization, site cleanup, and stream continuity for 137 Gore Road, Twisted Piston?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Michelle, do we have a second?
I'll second.
I think Fred got you beat by a fraction of a second.
Fraction of a second, yeah.
Lose, you lose.
All right. You want to do the roll, Mary?
Yes. Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Okay. Bruce, we will get you the order of conditions that you can look over, and if there are comments between you and Brandon, and then obviously we'll go from there. Sound good?
Very good.
All right, thank you. You guys have a good night, okay?
Thank you to the commission and to the agent. Have a good night, folks.
Thank you. Okay, 2 Checkerberry Island. Mr. I never get it right, Mr. Pawarsik.
Alsevich.
Alsevich.
Oh my God.
Is that who I think it is, Mr. 56702?
Oh, I just put my thing on. I don't know why.
All right, folks, this is Checkerberry Island. They've been on our list for quite a while. They are looking to amend the current order of conditions based on when I went out there for during the summer and talked to Steve and the owner about what's going on with Checkerberry Island and what was suggested because of the amount of gravel that ended up in the driveway and in around the garage. A good way to keep that rock from going into the resource was to put 2 cast concrete blocks where his boat ramp is. And that is to, so this amendment is just to add those in there with probably about a 1 to 2 inch lip, Steve, so that obviously the stone doesn't go up and over. Anyone, but this one's a very simple one. And then, well, we could talk about it after this. Does the commission have any questions on this amendment?
I think I'd like to give a little brief presentation if I could.
Oh, you are so good at that, so please do.
I'm representing 2 Checkerberry Island. And when we first filed for the notice of intent for the site, it was for us to be able to construct the garage as shown where it is, do the grading around it, construct that depressed area for stormwater and plant shrubs in there, put the gate at where the 2 pine trees are, and also to put additions on the existing dwelling and install a pool at the tip. Obviously, they did not do anything to the existing home. They did construct the garage. They did put stone down for now to stabilize the driveway itself, which was proposed to be pervious pavers. We then came back to the board to go underground with the utilities, which they've done already. There used to be overhead utilities to the site. And then after we had a site visit, and there were a few members there, we had discussed planting additional cedar trees along exactly where that last picture was. All along there, there's all the cedar trees planted. Upon Mr. Wigglesworth's recommendation, he did plant some additional shrubs within the stormwater basin.
Yep.
Because I guess you were concerned about the other ones being cut and misconstrued as some grass. So he did plant shrubs in there. And then we had discussed the precast concrete apron. I have it labeled on the plan as 6 feet wide by 14 feet long. This would be a concrete pad that's delivered to the site and placed in place. And by the way, if the board would like me to go stake its location, I don't have a problem with doing that, so you can exactly see where it's going to go, because it's not easy to move the concrete pad. And yes, the concrete pad would curtail stone being tracked into the water at the existing boat ramp. I also thought that if he's going to apply for an amendment, the 2 small houses that exist, we would like, and I put a note on the plan, we would like to put new roofs and siding on them.
Hold on, Mary. Go ahead, Steve.
We'd like to put new roofs and new siding on it because they need to be maintained. So I added that. And then my thought process took me that he's going to be tearing down the whole structure and rebuilding new, because the interior doesn't work as far as its flow inside the house and with the additions that he proposed. So he decided to tear down the house and then rebuild new. And I already have those architectural plans, but we would like to apply now to remove the house. And then what we would do is, once that's all done, get a certificate of compliance and then reapply with a new notice of intent for the actual construction of that house.
All right, so let's rewind here. So we've got, you put in the extra plants in that, in that rain garden area. Great. Put in the cedars that I talked about, right? Did he, Steve?
Yes, you're correct.
part of the visit also, as we walked around the back, was that there was gonna be no other activity in the back there. Then we came out, nope, Mary, we go back to the other picture.
This one?
Then, yep, then we got to this area and he asked me, he wanted to take out this area here and along the building, for all of this gravel out of here and bring it back to lawn. So did that get done?
He did. He left this stone area until obviously the spring. You don't want to be removing stone and having raw earth. So this stabilizes the embankment. But yeah,
Steve, we talked about this in like May.
well,
Yeah,
He has
these
done a
are
lot
old
of-
pictures.
he has done a lot of work, and I think yes, those pictures are old.
They're
Yeah,
from-
they are. I can tell by looking at them, they're old.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, I mean, I was there. It was, you know, kind of an informal enforcement for going beyond the areas of where he was supposed to be cutting and taking stuff down. I also did tell him that it was okay. He's got two sick trees right there in front of us.
Yes.
And then there were two smaller ones over to the right, Mary. Yeah, they're somewhere over a little bit further. And I mean, there's literally not, they're right there actually, right where that plastic white thing is. Right in there.
Obviously, you can see that these through the chair, that these pictures are old because that's all sod now.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I gotta tell you, when I went there and I brought this up to the board when when folks asked me how was the visit there, I brought all of the stuff up about how the site is stabilized. It looks really good. He was gonna put the shrubs back in. He was gonna convert that gravel back to a vegetated area, which is pretty much a gain on the vegetation side. But there were 4 trees that we talked about and pretty much said, like, all right, they're sick. And I said to him when we're at the site, this is it, we're cutting trees down, right? And he said, yes, there's the dead trees, you can see them there. And he said, yes. So now, as far as, so the last component on what we talked about is putting in the cast for the boat ramp, right?
The precast slab, correct.
Yeah, all right. So there's that. And then, so that should be the amendment to add that in there. And then that should close out this project. And there needs to be, for a different dwelling, Steve, there needs to be a new filing because we need to have a full filing on what's going on with this dwelling and not just amend it to pull in a house that's going to get demoed and issue another order of conditions on that particular on that dwelling. We're gonna-
Whatever way,
to amend something like that with all of that, Denise or Kim from DEP would be like, what are you guys doing in Webster?
all right, I understand where you're coming from. If the board would, let me ask this question. Would the board allow us to remove the roof and the siding from those 2 cottages? And we'll get rid of raising the existing building. Is that okay? In other words, we got 3 things going on, the boat ramp,
As part of this, this approved structure to go here. Everything that's uphill needs to be a separate filing.
all right, then that's fine. I will go
It's-
whatever way the board wants. And what I will do is I will go down and stake where that pad is going so that Mary can go take pictures or you can go down and he can get that done. And then we can file for a certificate of compliance. And then we will, in the next notice of intent, raise the existing dwelling, build
Yeah.
new, and side and roof the other structures.
And
Yeah.
Steve, you could do the siding and the roofing under or they could just do it under an administrative approval. It wouldn't need to be a full
It's
filing.
maintenance. All right.
Yeah. So, well, you still have to file for it, but if you want to get that done before you file the NOI, you can do that under an administrative approval. It's on our website.
But is that to replace the roof and the siding or to take it down?
No, to replace what's on the roof with new and replace the siding. No additions, no anything.
So
Only to tear it down?
No, there's
No,
three
the other
buildings,
building.
three structures on the lot. There's the house
Yeah,
and the garage that are connected.
yeah.
And then there's two separate cottages where you can see right there.
Okay, I haven't been all the way up there, so I haven't seen.
There's three structures.
Okay,
The two cottages is what needs to be sided and roofed.
okay. So you
So-
can do that through administrative approval. Mary's got the paperwork's online and Mary can go there, look at it, and she'll tell you exactly what can be done and what's gonna be done.
All right, so-
Mr. Chairman,
Once we agree upon the location of that concrete slab
Yep,
and they install it, which they can do now, it's not really bad weather. There's no
Yeah.
frost in the ground, hardly any at all.
yep.
I don't think there's ice on the lake either yet, right?
nope.
A small skim in some areas, but no major ice.
So we could possibly get that work done and get the certificate of compliance and file for the RDA for the roof replacement and siding replacement on the two cottages.
Yes. And then the new dwelling, that's gotta be a separate NOI.
That will be,
It's gotta be a separate order of conditions.
that's fine.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'm very concerned about expanding this project yet again. Only because it's had a long history of being all over the place and are having to go back and make corrections and negotiate again over trees and spaces and areas. And I feel like adding one more thing to it just makes it that much harder.
well, the thing, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Michelle, but what I had talked about with Steve and what we had talked about, as far as, he came out with the lawn further here. He's gonna, where the truck is, that's gonna return to grass. Like, I got a verbal commitment that there was no more trees coming down and pecking around with the vegetation. And we have to come up with a solution for keeping this gravel from getting into the lake. I had originally said to put, some sort of a, like either concrete or wood right across there, but, then I think it was Steve that brought up probably just two concrete slab there and it would just button that up and keep it. I completely understand where you're coming from we've been to this property a lot.
Right. So my
on
concern,
compliance.
I can separate the boat ramp into this project, but as we work our way up the hill, I feel like we're opening a new can of worms.
Well, I think that on the permitting side, we're gonna have to be a lot more clear. And Steve, if you're doing up top there, I don't remember if you were involved in this one. What is permitted? It's permitted. Like, we can't color outside the boundaries because up top there, from what I remember from looking at from the other side of that cove, those structures are pretty closer to the water. So, with what's going on up there, we'll want to know exactly what trees are coming down. We're gonna have them spray painted and they're gonna be marked and all that stuff. But that's a different project. And when we get to that point, we can discuss that stuff. But as far as what you want to do with those other structures with obviously the roof and the siding, I mean, that's basic maintenance work. Michelle, I mean, anyone can do an administrative order on that.
Yep, they can.
Um,
But you understand my concern.
I'm not gonna lie that I'm also there with you on that.
Right.
'Cause I've been to this property more times than I really care to. Lovely place. I just don't want to keep going there. So I think that's the road for you, Steve. The amendment on this. We'll look at Mary, Mary can take a look at this and see about closing this out, but we agreed to that parking area going back to grass, so that should be part of, that should be done before we do the COC on this.
I have to agree with you. I understand that. So
So it's really just,
slope behind the truck, we're gonna loom it and put sod down.
yeah,
And the boat ramp, I'm gonna stake so you can go look at its placement.
yeah,
And once we do those two things up, we would close out this notice of intent.
yeah.
And then I would file an RDA for the two houses to be re-roofed and re-sided, no expansion, no anything. And then it would be a separate notice of intent for the house.
Okay. Also, with filing, Mary, I know that there was an issue with the dock on this property. On the new filing, obviously, we pull the docks into all the new filings. Did we ever have a filing for Chapter 91 on this?
Steve, I believe they never
No,
put that dock back in the water.
correct.
The dock, it was too big anyway. It wouldn't have been able to get a permit for it. So I'm not sure, are they planning on going through with a filing for that? Do you know, Steve?
What I would do is I would show the dock in compliance, 600 square feet. And then if he chooses to go larger, well, then it's a separate permit that we need for it.
Okay,
So are the concrete slabs for the boat ramp, are they going in the water?
No,
right at the water's edge. All right, so commissioners, any other questions about this? Okay, with this being an amendment for DEP number 323-1067 for boat ramp at 2 Checkerberry Island, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Are there any abutters for 2 Checkerberry Island that have comments? Okay, with that, I'm going to, do we have a motion for closing public comment?
Make the motion to close the public hearing on 2 Checkerberry.
Can I get a second?
My second.
Okay.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, motion to make the amendment of the boat ramp to Checkerberry Island as discussed.
I'll make the motion.
All right, Fred with the first, who's got the second?
second,
Dan with the second.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Sherillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau. Mr. Duteau?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, so we can stake that out, Steve, and work out things with Mary on the amendment. Be all set.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Bye.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, so here we are, Zero Lake Parkway. Mr. Kunkel is the applicant, construction of a single-family home. This is continued from January 4th. We've got Glenn. How you doing, Glenn? You muted?
Muted.
We'll need the new plans, revised plans in this, Mary.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you again.
How we doing, sir?
It's a beautiful day.
Isn't all
Not too much snow. As long as there's not a lot of snow, it's all good. Hard to delineate wetlands with snow. When you have a lot of delineation over your head, you really don't want too much snow. We know it's going to come, though. It has come, but it's gone. It'll come again. And I hope you're all fine too on the Conservation Commission end. And Chairman, thank you, and the rest of the board, and Mary. Seriously, thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
All right.
All right, so we've got some adjustments, some changes, and we got plans, right?
Mary?
Yeah, we have plans.
If I could, through the chairman.
Okay. All right, take us through.
Thank you, I will. Thank you. There is, this is dated at the bottom. It should be, we have a date of revision 1/20 of this year. And there's another plan that goes along with it on same date on, but, excuse me, the revision on that one is 1/11. It's, excuse me, wrong plan. There's 3 plans on this project. The other revision is also called 1/20, but the title is called Proposed Declaration of Restriction. So just to say that there is a declaration of restriction meets and bounds plan dated the same day of revision for this one. And going into this one, because the new things on the plan are a well with a bigger sump. We've been running into the size of sumps that they're not big enough to handle 400 or 500 feet. In Oxford, the one on Upper Gore Road, we had problems with that. So now we're doubling the size of our sump because of the amount of slurry coming out. I'll just make that small point. We're not going to tie into the town water because it's across the street, and we will incur the cost of going this route to have an on-site well. The septic system is the sewer line, the force main is where the sidewalk will be on our side of the road. And so we will not have to get into the rough coated roadway. And that's what we're proposing. And I've directed the engineer to immediately pursue that, which he is. And I've also talked to 2 drain layers that are licensed in your town. Going further, there was another plan which we did send over without a stamp, and it's also called in that plan, and we would want to have it in your possession if it isn't already. I believe I asked my son to send it over today. It's just it's called a staging area. There was a concern by Mr. Pizzetti that there was no place to stage, and so we took. On this new plan, all there is it's hash marked. It's in front of the house between the town property roadway and the proposed house. It's 30 feet by 120 feet staging area. We don't believe we're going to need all that area, but we wanted to show that we do have an area that we can stage to build a house.
Okay.
So just to say that it's in front of the house and we don't need to be on the town's property to do it, even though most people would use that strip of property between the property boundary and the sidewalk, which is an additional upwards of 20 feet. So there's as much as 50 feet that'll in front of the house that will be able to be used. But we staying on our property, we have 30 by 120. We can shorten it. On the other things that we talked about at the last meeting, I'll just go with the blue line first because it stands out, if you don't mind. That we put the orange construction fence, orange silt fence as, and there's a note, you can see it to the left of the bump, thank you, that it's going to be both secondary erosion control at the top of the slope, and also it'll show the contractors not to get any closer. And then we have the wattles at the bottom of the slope. And we did keep with the columnar arborvitaes. We had talked about it, as you know. These do not seed out, so we're not concerned that they're going to be invading our wetlands. And I'm sorry to digress, but just briefly, if we had something like Norway spruce, which I just sent a letter to Arbor Day Foundation to stop giving them away because they are spreading out in our wetlands. So and the point being that can be a problem, just like other evergreens. But we're not using something that is invasive. We are using something that is a shield or a buffer or a boundary to this back 70. It's a 0.71 acres of wetland. I know that figure because that's how big the CR will be, which will include everything from the wetland line going northward. So that's that point. We did go into the wetlands this week, or within a week, last week, within 7 days, to see that along the western side of this old fill that probably came in during the construction of the roadway, the channel leading to the Lake Parkway, we will revise that. I gave the flow path to the engineer and it goes the other way. You're running over that arrow and I corrected it here, but it doesn't flow upstream. It flows down. I'm not sure how that was missed, but I picked it up just recently, just now. And it does flow, as you know, southward. So we can have that small revision or we can fix it on the plan. I am going to be dropping off hard copies to Mary as she Miss Overholt, as she requested today or yesterday, excuse me. So we'll correct that one arrow. The channel itself has a gravel base. There's rocks in it. I went in it to see how much clog there was, to see if the water would drain from up above. And it has drained several inches. I'm not saying more than 3 to 4 up gradient or north of us because of the clogs, but you can look up the channel and it is rocks on the bottom. Across the street or in this channel itself, in the mouth of the wing of the flared end on our side of the road, there is 10 inches of sand and water. And across the street, as we stated before, we have put sediment depths, and I've talked to Mr. Pizzetti. Both Mr. Amarillo or the Amarillo construction had dumped out during construction is fresh gravel there, not just sand, gravel. And that normally comes from road redevelopment because we have the same problem in Oxford with that this occurred with. And so downstream, we could lower it if the clogs are taken out at a minimum of 8 to 10 inches would keep this elevation of the water on our side of the road to what it had been when they originally put the culvert in. One thing they did not change when they redid this road, they have not changed the flared ends or the reinforced concrete pipe under the road. Both ends, I inspected them, it's the same pipe. So that was there at least when they rebuilt the road the last time, or from originally, I'm not sure exactly, but normally you keep the pipes at the same inverts. Leading away from that issue, we looked at how deep the organic was in the filled wetland, only because there was a question by Mr. Tatro about doing soil sampling or geotech, where the house is going, to ensure that the foundation can be put on a solid base. I found anywhere from the western side of the property at the tip of the old fill, 1 foot of mud, 2 feet, 3 feet as I went, and eventually in front of the house, the deepest was in front of to the north of the house, is 3.5 feet of organic material. Nothing that we're worried about. We put a house in on Ellis Drive off of Salisbury that we did in lifts. It was historically old fill. We just did one on Wheeler and Worcester too, where we take the fill out, you backfill it in lifts, 1 foot lifts at a time, and then you can put a footing on it. In this case, we'll probably just build a thicker footing to the original gravel base, which is required, so that there's a stability to the foundation. Just again, working with the building inspector through my engineer and with Mr. Pizzetti through my engineer, and also directly with Mr. Pizzetti on conversations. So the house itself is 1,640 square feet. It is 30 feet off the road. I believe most, and you can refresh my memory, what else that we were required, if you choose to refresh me. I think I've covered them, but we had the trees. I'm looking at my own plan. I'm not sure if this is working or if the mic up there is working. If you can't hear me,
Yeah,
I
yeah, we
will
can
look-
hear you.
Okay, then it must be
Yeah.
this one. This is how savvy I am with this stuff. So, so again, the columnar trees, the orange construction fence, the well now on the property, any slurry that goes into that area, into the sump, would be removed from the property. Where that tree line is, we do propose to keep that as a tree line, so we're going to restore the tree line next to the well slurry area. We'll replant or plant, excuse me, the creation wetland. We have added logs and rocks into that. They were there originally, I believe, when you saw it. If they weren't, I did just get them in. I wanted to make sure there was some structure in there, which is normal. Concerns of the neighbors was the water elevation and getting some of their concerns, not all, is
Yeah.
getting the water out. They all have concerns. It's not in my backyard is quite common. We believe you'll see a sump if we have to de-water on this plan. That's not the final plan.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that.
No, it's on the final plan. I moved the plan, Mary, the final plan is 1/20/21. If you move the plan up, you probably will not, nope, the other way, I'm sorry. There it is. There's the dewatering sump right there on the right. So if we have to dewater, if it's done in the summer, we probably won't have water. If it's done in the a higher water table time of the year,
Yeah,
this sump has worked well for us in the past in many towns. It's large enough that it takes the water coming out and it allows for the fines to drop out, and then the water weeps through the silt fence and the hay bales and then discharges back into the wetland, so that we're not pumping directly into a wetland with
Okay.
any watering. So that, and then you also see obviously the rain garden, which we discussed the last time on the lower left, in the restoration creation area, excuse me, on the upper left. And we have references in here on the DR, which Miss Overholt, you should have a copy, but it has it goes along the wetland line, and it has the meets, there it is, meets and bounds of all of what we did discuss at the last meeting that I would do. So it shows what the total square footage is to the left, more to the north on the plan. Oh, there it is. It's on the lower left. It
Yep.
gives you the 31,000 square feet. We just finished one of these just in the last 2 days with the Natural Heritage Program for a different reason, but this is how they're set up, and then it gets recorded on the deed. And if we did get an order from you, we would ask that you put in the order that no construction can take place until you see the recorded DR, because there is language that has to go along with these meets and bounds.
yes.
We have an attorney working on that. And I think I've covered it. We understand how this is tight, but it is, we've done them only a few times before, but we've done them in this manner. And of course, we have that garbage, the leaf clipping area will also be used. And also the 55-gallon spill kit was not on the original plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, under the regs, it conforms. So, just for, anyone that may question, given the size of it, its location. You're being extremely careful with how much is being altered, and obviously you're adding wetland into this, so that is in a way a net gain. And then, of course, the rain garden. So, it'll be a tight lot for someone, but now I know that I'm sure you talked, Glenn, with Mark Wing on the corner there.
I-
With his concern of what this development might do to water on his property.
We had that, I offered my phone number. He does know me, and I did offer the number. I talked to and met with Miss Aguilar. She was concerned, but with Mr. Wing, he was concerned at the last meeting that the creation wetland, somehow that water was going from there into his property, but everything drains from his property in a western direction to
Yeah.
the channel. And that's why the small that I did in the channel itself was just removing some debris and some human trash. There was a small amount of plastic and some other things to take it out so that the water could get out from this side of the road, at least from the upper channel, quicker to the culvert. We didn't solve the problem at the culvert because that problem is generated from across the street or south of us with the clogging over there. That's why directly I did call Mr. Pizzetti over a day or 2 days after our last meeting. I didn't wait around, and he had already heard from my engineer and was more concerned, was concerned with, I'm not saying all is concerned, but his concern was opening up the road for a water line.
Yeah.
But I did explain that the sand's over there, that there's a depth of sediment, and I explained that after the meeting. I asked, my client wasn't aware, I apologize, of the last meeting. He's away, and that's no reason not to be on Zoom, but he is on vacation down south. And so he left it to me, and I said that I would take it on, and to relieve any clogs across the street as long as the church allows me to do that, because some of this can at least be dropped another 5 inches with just removing human clogs, some trash, some sticks. You go down another 150 feet and you've lost that 8 or 9 inches, 10 inches that the clog is. The sand, we don't want to really flush it generally downstream, but that is what occurs with sand getting into any body of water. It either stops there or slowly over bigger storm events, it eventually migrates downstream. I think the best bet would be that Mr. Amarillo, because Mr. Pizzetti did say he wasn't finished right there, would be to create a sump on right after the culvert. I know that he's not going to go onto anybody else's property like the church, but at least on the town's property, he should take out what I see as his gravel and some of the sediment that actually backed up into the flared end. I took a depth in the flared end on his side of the road on the south, and over there, even there, it's 8 to 10 inches deep of sediment in the flared end. Again, because they never took that pipe apart. So it's backing it up into the town's property or the town's culvert. And we know that that's not how things are designed. It's just that sand doesn't move fast when you have very little velocity. This is a headwater stream with minimum velocity. So even sand doesn't move too far. And clearly pebbles and rocks, they don't move at all. And leaves and wood, and this is the last thing I'll say, that might just become a clog and then another clog, but it really doesn't flush out like a river or a steep gradient stream. This is low gradient, so it basically sits there and continues to mount up, as discussed before. I think I've said, if there's any more, of course, I'm here to talk, but I don't want to on and on with you people. I apologize.
No, you're always very thorough. So commissioners, Glenn has gone through and obviously enhanced some of the things that we were looking for from the last meeting. Obviously a tricky lot, but the nice thing is probably 90% of the lot will end up in conservation restrictions, so you won't be seeing houses pop up in the back. And you really can't because it's all wetland.
Wetland, right.
And, you know, there's, you know, we've been to the site, so we know the edge. And Glenn's gonna keep that integrity. Obviously spoke, at length about, the flowage, and the concerns within the stream. And I'm sure, I'm hoping that Mr. Wing is feeling more comfortable that this is down gradient and that wetland creation area will not affect anything there. Yeah, go ahead.
One small thing, this was, I know it's been a while, but it was permitted before under a superseding order. And just to let you know, we just received the certificate of compliance for no construction yesterday. Just on another side note, that to wrap up, that it had been permitted, and it never was built, and we filed with DEP, and that we just received that certificate. So we'll be recording that. Small side note, sorry.
Okay. So, I mean, with that said, I mean, I think Glenn is definitely, talked about the meat and bones of this. And does anyone have any questions? Commissioners?
I do. And it just may be confusion over looking at the plan. So if we look at the area where it actually says well,
Yes, ma'am.
that scalloped line, it says edge of lawn.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that actually a proposed new tree line? Because the darker scalloped one was the tree line, right? So I'm just confused.
Yeah, the darker one is a tree line.
Yeah.
Is that the new tree line because of the creation area?
Let's be clear that the black is the existing tree line. There's a slight clearing, so there's a black scallop.
Yep.
Lower right, and along the generally along the right. That's the existing tree line.
Mhm.
Okay, there's a little slight clearing right there. I mean, it is small, and then the new tree line is the red.
Okay.
And what the engineer, because I told him I wanted a bigger sump for the well drilling slurry, temporary sump from welding. I just said at the beginning of the meeting that area will be replanted. That will not turn into lawn. So he did not, he should have corrected that, say, and there's an erosion control downgrading of it. That's what that little dash line to the left. Yeah. But we have it so large now that we're anticipating, and we'll be watching it during drilling. Now, from now on, in fact, the one in Oxford I just permitted, they want somebody there, and it's double the size, and somebody has to be there, such as myself, watching it to ensure, because, and everything stops. If there was a backhoe has to come back in to make it larger. Here, it's flat. But generally, it's going to be 3 feet deep. It's going to be that dimension. We used to have them 10. Now I believe this one's 20. Let me just look at 20. The total depth of the house at the deepest point, if you can see that, is 25. So this sump is about generally 20 feet in diameter, 3 feet deep, and we're gonna actually measure the volume of material coming out and that we trap, and we're gonna share that with commissions to say, this is what you should have for a 500 deep well or 400 foot deep well. So we're actually going to nail down the volume by having this adequate size, depth, width, and something that we should all know, instead of guessing that a 10 foot, 2 feet deep was going to be sufficient. And I'm seeing that if you're close to wetlands, it's not sufficient. And so I think it's a time to actually get a volume on these things, a plus or minus anyway, so that we can continually, if we're close to wetlands, we can make sure that we're sizing them properly instead of just saying sump. Years ago, there was just no sump at all, and it just went over the ground. But when we're working close to wetlands, we want to make sure that we trap it all. So lastly, I am going to replant. The creation wetland will be made. We'll get in there with the machine. Originally, we were going to come in from the west side and create the wetland and even leave that little area where that sump is intact. The only thing we were going to do in there is take out exotic invasive plants and leave whatever red maple there might be in there, and there's some blueberry, there's some black birch, it's a newer growth because this had been filled, but we're gonna not go beyond that area, in other words, to the east, but because we need a sump, we ended up taking up some of that area we were gonna leave natural. Again, it is recent growth, and we plan on, if you want a separate note, and if we do get an order, we will put together a planting list for that area for what we alter. And we won't alter any further east either. We'll keep to that hole and come west. But that'll allow us also for more room to create this wetland creation area.
So
Instead of
right,
just
so-
coming from the west. Go on.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I think what I heard you say
Yes.
was that this red scalloped line
Yes.
represents trees that are currently there that are staying.
That is why that red scallop line was there, that I didn't want to take up any more of
Yep.
the yard. I wanted to leave as much natural as possible, but now that we have to drill a well because of the problem with crossing underneath the road, I put the well on this site, and we ended up having to create there's another way around this. I just thought of it. There is another way around this. We could still leave that area where it says edge of lawn, where the gray is. We could leave it there, put the well drilling slurry, and we have to drill the well up front to make sure we have the gallons. We're not really worried about the gallons. The type of bedrock that we have in this area is fractured. And so we're not concerned that we're not going to, I don't care if we had to go 600 feet down, we're going to get water at some point, 5 gallon. I mean, it's rare that we don't get water, but we would drill the well first to ensure that we have water. So that being said, I can move the well drilling slurry out of that area and move it to generally where the driveway is. That will leave that area, that red area intact. And the only place where we're going to be breaking through that red scallop will be at the western side of the created wetland as I originally envisioned it.
Mhm.
And that was so that I would go in, start on the east, move west with the creation wetland. And even that small area against the road, I can still leave that. I know it's small, but I can leave it intact. So if there was a
It actually
revised
sounds
plan,
like probably a better solution, Glenn, if it's possible, because obviously,
it is possible, because we can always drill, just like on the Smith property, I'm up a Gore Road. We
Yeah.
drilled the well up front before where I'm marketing the house. So let me move the well drilling slurry area directly to the, west, and keep it out of the red scallop area. There will be alteration where we create the wetland, but that's going to grow back. So generally, everything to the east of the red scalloped area will remain natural. Once we're done, once the creation wetland grows and we already have a planting scheme there, and the front area doesn't get touched except for exotic invasive, and I say front, I mean south of the created wetland, that will stay intact except for exotic invasive removal.
okay. Any other questions, Michelle?
No, I'm glad I asked.
Yes.
Thank you for asking. It keeps us more honest, because they were actually, I told them, give me a slurry. And at the time we're running around and I didn't tell them where to put it, but looking, and I know how concerned the neighbors and you are about plants. And I am keeping these people to they've got some land to walk around and mow behind the house, but the only thing they will have is the front yard. And if you don't want that type of situation, then you're not going to buy this, because there's going to be the restriction. We're going to
Yeah.
have the garbage, not the garbage, but the lawn clipping area. And this is what you buy, 1,640 square feet of like a condo, something where you live and
Yeah.
eat there. And it's not going to be for the big kids and all the
Minimal
maintenance.
work,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
A
Exactly.
lot of
what it's
people
gonna
like
be.
that.
Right, and we still try to keep it, as I said the last time we did work, it's 46 feet long, so it matches similarly to Mr. Wing as far as the frontage. I am cognizant of not working to devalue what the general area looks like, and that's why we didn't want to put something so small, but we did want to, we work to satisfy both the wetland regulation and the client. That's what and also obviously the commission is there. That's it.
absolutely.
That's about what I can say.
All right.
about it.
Any other commissioners' comments? All right, so we have anyone from the public here for Zero Lake Parkway? West-
Yes, Mark Wing.
Hi, Mark.
I apologize, Glenn and the board, for not getting back to him. We've had COVID run through the family and a
Oh,
death in the
no.
family.
I hope you're all right.
Oh, so
So
sorry.
we're doing good, but with our 90-year-old grandmother passed.
Oh,
Um, so when I look at the road and I look at, the proposed house, I'm definitely in a low spot. I mean, there's no question about it. It's downhill from the right, downhill from the left. And my lowest spot is at the end of my driveway, where even with the new storm drains, I know we're not getting into the storm drain issue, but all the water comes to me. I've had to spend $6,000 on a perimeter drain for my cellar that wasn't disclosed to me when I bought the house. But anyways, it's the elevation is a concern because I mean, I'm not a land surveyor. I'm in the low spot. I mean, I work with water and sewer, and the low man always gets the backup with the sewage and obviously the stormwater, rainwater. So, I mean, my house is sinking. I had a contractor shoot it, and it's sinking towards the wetlands, towards the proposed house. And, I don't see on record, and if you build this thing, I guarantee you this thing's going to sink. I mean, I'm not a professional wetlands guy, but it's going to sink. I mean, no question about it.
If
You're building it on wetlands. My house is on wetlands. It has a foundation. It's sinking. And I'm definitely in the low spot. So all the rainwater that comes down from whatever way, it usually comes from the opposite side of where this house is going, but it just comes and nails me, goes through my cellar and then goes down the pools at the end of my driveway. I have a pond. So, I mean, if they weren't building this house, I mean, they wouldn't clean that brook. I mean, the only reason why they're cleaning that is to say, hey, we're doing this, so the water table's going to drop and it might not be as bad.
If I could, through the chairman, thank you. We can see on the plan that his 485 is his low point of the yard.
yeah.
And then the brook channel is 483. If we have an invert elevation, I'm looking to see on the plan, but 483 is the elevation right in front of the culvert. 484 you see, but I just went in there and then upgrading, as you see, there's a 483 in the middle of the swamp or halfway northward. But in front of the culvert, generally we've got 483 at the invert elevation of that culvert. So yes, it's only 2-foot drop from the low point of his yard. Our property is a little bit higher than that 487. You can see we have existing grades of 487 in front of the house, 486 to the rear of the house. So we're a little bit higher than his 485, but water does flow down gradient. And yeah, I cleaned the channel because I wanted to see actually if that was a mud bottom channel or a rock bottom channel. And if you look up it, you can stand above the culvert up near the road and look down it. You'll see all rocks at the surface, chunk rocks, like 1.5 feet, 2 feet, not just little rocks. So when they dug that swale out, and I don't have no question that as I go further towards Mr. Winger's house in the swamp, the organic material did get deeper. What I feel happened here is that the reason why this channel is in the swale is that they ended up, whoever was building the roadway, the logic, even on the property that I grew up on, the farmer put the culvert crossed all the way across a swamp that was 10 to 12 feet deep of peat moss. This is Wellington Valley. I've done first refusal. He put his road all the way across, building it on timbers, on logs that he laid down, put dirt on it. And when he got to the other side of the valley, the side I grew up on, that's where he put the culvert, because you put the culvert on the solid base so that it doesn't sink. So what here happened is, as I got further towards Mr. Wing, the organic in the back swamp got deeper, which tells me that what appears to me that the original swamp was closer to Mr. Winger. The deeper part of the swamp, clearly, well, glacial outwash, it's deeper because it's peat moss. It gets, again, thicker over near Mr. Wing, it was up to 8 feet deep when I finally got over there on his property. So again, was the outflow underneath Lake Parkway further east? The evidence in the swamp that it was, because it's deeper in the swamp on east of our site or east of us than compared to where our proposed house is, where the organic depth or there's rock in the channel and right off the northwestern corner of this house. It's only a foot of muck and it's gravel base. It's called first refusal. You go down with a rod, I got a 3/4 inch fiberglass, 8 foot long, and you hit the bottom. And that's where when you're going through mud, that's a term called first refusal in the Clean Lakes and Greater Ponds Act. If you recall those old programs, that's quite a few years back, but that's how you determine how much mud you would take out to get to a gravel base. What the building inspector and they require is that you build off of a gravel or a mineral base. And so we feel clearly that we'll be able to build this on a mineral base, the footing. And so it will be our job to ensure that the foundation does not sink. Not that we haven't put structures on pilings. I did the TGI Friday up in Dedham. It's on pilings. I did the Sunoco gas station north of Oxford Center. That's on pilings. The organic depth is not deep that we can't dig through, remove the fill, get that shallow depth of organic and build off of a mineral solid base to ensure that the foundation doesn't crack. That will be our job.
I should have had you do my house.
Well, whatever. I'm
Maybe you
not
should
saying
hire
you
Glenn.
shouldn't.
Hire Glenn to make reparations.
Well, if you went down on your side of the house towards us and closer to the wetland where you think you have lawn, you might actually dig through fill and then hit organic underneath that, because that's kind of what it's starting to sound like on your side.
I have tons and tons of sinkholes that are just getting worse and worse over time.
Well,
I mean, it's really bad in my backyard.
When I was asked to look at somebody down at the end of the road, I don't have to mention names and that, but I had originally thought, because there was some question about losing some yard there next to the wetland too. And after knowing the depth of the organic along this wetland, I kind of thought that maybe people along that little short road you have there, that coming towards this wetland, I just saw recently, some of that was filled wetland on some of that stuff back there. But that was what 71 or whenever you guys, that little houses were built, not little, but the nice houses were built. But that's the way things happened back then sometime. Today, we got building special like Mr. Tetra, everybody, they're going to be taking a hard eye on this, and we have to make sure. And that's why we put the dewatering sump in, because if we get into the water table to put the footing in, we'll have to dewater.
It's just, I'm just hoping that, these sinkholes in my house sinking in the water, my sub pump running, it just isn't going to get worse over time, because it's already bad. And, that's pretty much, my concern.
I understand. We stated it lastly at the last meeting that under stormwater regulations, we have a drip strip along this driveway to put it back into the water, but it's not required under state law. 4 houses and greater. I know I'm reiterating what I said the last time, but it's not required for us to do stormwater, but we have done stormwater to, at least with the rain garden and with the drip strip along both sides of the driveway. And this created wetland only takes water to the swamp, and from the swamp it drains westward. It can't go up gradient. Water doesn't do that. But I understand clearly your concerns, but we run into this all the time. But we see water draining down gradient, not water draining up gradient.
So if you or anybody on the board lived where I was, you guys would be totally fine with what they're doing, opinion wise?
I can be 100% with you, Mr. Wing. I work in the environmental field, and I've got 2 degrees in the environmental field, and particularly wetlands. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is probably the most creative and well put together way of putting a home on a very tight lot that is able to absorb as much stormwater as possible. the integrity of the property is gonna mostly, probably 95% of it is gonna stay intact with the, and you're gonna have a new, wetland, creation area there, and the more wetland plants that you have, and more is getting absorbed. So, and the same thing with, the rain garden that is on, Nancy's side, just before the channel there. There's a lot of, you can tell with this design, there's a lot of creative ways to manage the stormwater here. And not to dwell on your particular property, because we're discussing this one, and obviously it's a concern with you, but looking at the placement of where your property is, I think you take a lot of water off of the roadway. And, I don't know if that's something that you talk with Mass DOT that's doing the project, or Kenny, and maybe something right on the corner for you. It needs to divert the water to keep going down the roadway
Into the catch basin.
to get into that channel.
Yeah, that's what it's not doing, right? You're correct. But then at the bottom of my driveway, I had to dig a trench so it would try to make it to where you're trying to build the house, and to make it to the brook, to go, over the river and through the woods behind the church to grandmother's house, and not affect me.
Well, can I just point out one thing, Mr. Wing? You're in the 100-foot buffer, so you're supposed to let us know you're digging.
I was getting flooded out, and it was pretty much going nowhere until I made a little trench to go where it should go, not a pond in my house.
Absolutely. No, I completely, I understand your concerns, and it's unfortunate that you're dealing with those situations. It's sad when someone, thinks that they're buying a home that is gonna, hopefully last them their lifetime, and they end up with, problem after problem after problem, because it wasn't necessarily the correct place, or wasn't designed correctly for its placement. Glenn, did you have?
Just the last little point about water. I will take it on, Mr. Wing, and the commission, and I will inform the commission that if I have to file an RDA, we'll talk to whether it's the church or the next property. I'm not sure exactly the boundary line at the church, but we'll do the little bit of work and go through the commission to just get this water flowing. If Mr. Amarillo, without him or not, and Mr. Pizzetti, we can still relieve water out after that small sump area that's getting loaded with sand. Just working on next 100 feet or 150 feet plus down gradient would relieve water within the culvert, which will allow water to be relieved a bit more up in our swamp. And that's the best I can do. I will commit to talking to and contacting the property owner. And then if I have to file an RDA to remove a couple clogs down in there, I'll do what it takes.
Much appreciated, Glenn.
I want to make sure, Mr. Wing, and everybody, this is just another project to me. I get involved with it, but we want to satisfy as many people as possible on what we're doing. And as I told somebody else too, if it has to go somewhere else from you to somewhere else, I'm not just doing it for that. If it goes there, it goes there. If it doesn't go there, well, then I can move on as I continue to move on. It's not my only thing I'm doing, but it's more to satisfy that something simple can be done across the street, that unless somebody takes the hand to do it, which I do these kind of things, it isn't going to be done. So that's the only reason I'm saying that. For me, it's an hour type of work and a little bit of clog here and there, and all of a sudden the thing is flowing, and I dropped it another 3 to 4 inches. We did something similar for Smith. Again, I'm taking too much of your time, and other people might want to get here, but on Smith Mechanical, we did open up, and it was a lot of debris in the channel across, that's 195 Thompson Road. We dropped the elevation 3.5 inches from the culvert on 395 by just taking the human junk out of the channel, running parallel to Treasure Island. And that was everybody's trash since 76. And that
And
was
that-
plywood and beams and everything. Yes, we didn't go in front of the commission. We walked in there with waiters. We took the clogs out. We had a stake on our side of the road, which is the west side of 395. So that's how I know it was actually 3.5 inches, because we took clogs out for 150 feet and the water dropped down. And I know it was only 3.5 inches, but the water was so close to going into our garage at 195 Thompson Road that every inch that we could get it down made a difference. And so we did do it. And it has stayed down there because it took from 70 something to build up that mess. So that's why we can do it. We've got the waders, we got the hip boots, we have the potato rakes. It's not a big deal. That's all. I won't say anymore. Thank you.
Thank
again.
you, Glenn. All right. Any last comments on this project?
I would like to make a few comments, Joey. I've been in conversation with both Ted and Kenny the past 2 weeks. I thought they might be on the call tonight, but neither of them are. They're both very concerned about the project. Ted's concerns, as Glenn alluded to, are structural. And Ted thinks that it can possibly, and this is not really a conservation issue, so I won't go into it.
Yeah.
Kenny is concerned about the road, and the fact that it's newly built, and probably sounds like he won't allow this house to be built for several years because they didn't really meet the deadline for breaking up the road. But that's kind of his issue. But his second issue is just the water on the property. He says there's a lot of water that drain, a lot of water from several places just comes across this property, and just concerned about it's not the best place for a house. Those were Kenny's concerns. So I just wanted to make them known.
Well, I mean, the thing, if you remember the roadway the way it used to be, water could just fly right off the roadway, right across that dirt strip, that sand strip, and then across into this wetland area. Now it's, you've got like an 8
Berm. You got a
inch,
concrete berm along the road that keeps the water on the road and directing, if I could, sorry, Chairman, into the catch basin. So we didn't see overland flow issues within this area that we're building. I mean, it was crested high enough that, in fact, it's higher than the roadway a bit on that 87 that I said. Water doesn't come across this lot and go in. Across the street, it went off the dirt part of the road that people always drove and parked their cars, and then it went into the wetland there. But it wasn't coming through. There's no evidence of sand on this lot. As far as us opening the road, we're not going to open the road. That's why we said we'll put a well in. And as far as Mr. Tatro, he did say to the engineer, well, you're going to have to do geo. We're ready to do geo. That's why I went out to check the depth of the organics 4 or 5 last weekend to see what they were along our edge, to see, well, what is this all about? And nothing that we can't handle with putting a proper footings in it. And we just did one off of Salisbury on Wheeler, that there was an old fill. They had told us there was some peat moss down there. We built one house and we split it. This is for Chartroni Properties that owns Table Talk. We got down there, sure enough, there was the organic. We removed the organic. We filled it in lifts, and that's how the law requires it to be done. And then the house was built.
Hello?
I did, when I walked onto that property, that was one of the first things, because I grew up a couple streets down from here. So I know how it was before they tore it up and redesigned the roadway, which is much better. Obviously, I mean, it's a big difference from 40, 50 years ago. But one of the things I did look at when I walked onto this property, and I usually do this when I walk on any property, is there a water problem coming off of the roadway? And am I seeing a lot of exotic invasives? And I didn't see, like Glenn said, I didn't see, a certain, you can tell when water has crossed a property. You see sand, you see debris, you see all sorts of stuff.
Flow paths.
So, I mean, when you're looking at these things and you think about, geez, is there a better lot in town to put a house like this? Absolutely. But is a landowner in there right? And does this meet the performance standards of the regs? I mean, depends on the commissioners, but I'm seeing a very well-engineered plan in front of me with a lot of safeguards. And, you know, I mean, the neighborhood should be really happy that this isn't gonna be 4 or 5 lots behind here with other houses going in there. So,
It just, you know, to add to that, Joey, it just, I remember, you know, years and years ago, the whole Lake Parkway area was so controversial for all that's been said, this meeting and last meeting. And to Mr., like, he says Lily, it's Wing, but condolences for your grandmother. And sorry about the COVID. It's a horrible, horrible thing. But it sounds like some of what Glenn's doing could actually help you. I mean, given the issues you've had.
That's what we're hoping for that. As far as him saying put berms up on the road, most of our rainwater comes in the back of our house. I have videos of a river running through like a whitewater rapids, heading right towards where you want to build. It doesn't, the catch basins mean nothing. The majority of the water comes through the woods from my other neighbor, Dennis, and it comes right by where the compass is, right where my name is, and it just goes that way, and it wants to go to those wetlands and make it to that brook.
Right.
Hardly any water goes to those catch basins on the road.
He seems to, this is how he makes a living, but Glenn also seems to enjoy it very much to, you know, keep wetlands nice and to help builders. I mean, his clients, but yeah, all of Lake Parkway was controversial for the animal life that was mentioned, for wetlands, for how high it was, you know, in the 60s and 70s, the 1860s and 70s, when I was born. No, but I don't know. He'd be somebody to consult. I mean, I feel bad that I don't know what happens to, you know, I've learned on this commission, I don't know what happens to total disclosure when you're buying property, but I feel bad the money you've spent, but it might be worth a little bit more to discuss things with him in addition to what he's doing on Jay's property. So, but it is legal, like everybody's saying.
This is Nancy Camerano. Can I speak?
sure.
Oh, thank you. Mark, I have some sinkholes back my yard too. They're not very pretty. I'm concerned about this a tree garden here. Is that what you're calling that?
Rain garden.
Rain garden, yeah.
Sorry. I have a couple questions. You know, on this plan, you see these little red scallopy things. Did you tell me that is trees?
That's a tree. Yeah, it's a tree line. When you have a tree canopy,
So they're not cutting the trees on that side then? Is that right?
there's minimal excavation really being done or disturbance being done to the lot in general.
Well, they're gonna push around the land, the fill that's there, and they're gonna have to add fill to it. Is that correct? To make a level lot to build on? And in so doing, aren't they gonna create a slope that's gonna slope into the wetland? Because there's on the side of with tree, rain garden, what do you call it? I forgot.
Rain garden. If I,
Yep.
Right,
Glenn, go ahead.
yeah, the
rain garden
the-
there. What is the height of that slope heading down into the culvert?
Thank you, ma'am. If I could, thank you through the chairman. The drop from that slope is 484 at the bottom where the brook channel, the brook itself, at the lowest point of the brook, if you can look to the north, you're going to see 483. Then it drops downward from that high point, because that's actually a channel which borders both your property and ours, all the way to 483 to the north. And then it goes down the center of the channel, up on the side slope, generally as it's coming up there, you see a 484. And then there's a 485, excuse me, I'm sorry, 485, then a 486. So we're looking at the top of the slope, adjacent to the property line between you and I, or my client, and that rain garden. Up there, the elevation is 486. So again, it's about a 3-foot drop from the rain garden, 486, 487. I've got a post grade of 487. Yeah, so that, yep. So 486, and then you'll, generally the rain garden is at elevation 486, because if you go a little bit further east, you'll see a tie-in slope, post slope of 488. Which would be just to the southeast corner of the rain garden. There's a 488. So the rain garden is generally sitting around between 486 and 487. and then it drops down where that wetland flag 3A and 4A are, down to where it eventually shows flow path. So let me correct that. There's approximately 3.5 to 4 feet of drop from the rain garden down. And as far as your trees, you did ask before, are you cut any trees on that slope? No, because the slope itself is owned by you. Where we have our tree line, which is the red scallop, that is on our side of the property line. And we stated before, and I'll state it again, that property line will be staked out, ribboned out by surveyors. Everything on this lot will be surveyed and pinned before any work takes place, so that it is exactly where it shows on the plan. As I tell all clients, unlike one that just happened, oh, don't even talk about that one over there. I hear that things weren't quite where they were supposed to be. I just had one in front of Sutton last night where the people decided, the builder, to push the roadway over 15 feet, and now it's in a wetland, and they're going to court in 10 days. So for us, those trees, in fact, Mary is showing trees right there at the top of the slope. That is your tree that she's pointing at, and that tree will not be altered. And in fact, if we had to shift that rain garden just a little bit more to the east to avoid your root systems, we are not going to touch whatever that is. It might be a red maple, but it's basically on the slope and partly flat to the right of it. I told you before, we're not going to touch the trees on your property.
Oh, I understand. I understand.
And also, Nancy, understand too that a rain garden is designed so that water can conveys water from the property to it, and it helps it infiltrate into the ground, as well as there are plants that are in wetlands to absorb a lot of water.
And the nutrients.
You're starting to see-
They're also designed for nutrients.
Yeah, they're all over the place now. They're starting to incorporate them in all sorts of development. Because
you can see with this rain that happened on Saturday, this is pictures of the rain just from Saturday morning, the amount of water that is in that wetland. I mean, it does, eventually dissipate and, go into the ground. But when it's there, it is a problem, and it's just going to continue gaining more. When you put a sloped land, the slope is going to still drain water into that wetland when it rains.
The reason, if I could through the chairman, the reason why the water is backing up, because it can't get out on the other side of the road. The brook is clogged. So when you dump 2.5 or 3 inches of rain on something and you can't get the water out rapidly because there's no gradient over there and it's clogged, it is going to build up until it finally can dissipate out after the storm event. We're still above this, and we're still not at 4 houses or greater. So we're not required. We're doing more on stormwater than it's required by the law. And the state feels that at 1 house, which is not 4 houses, it does not rise to the level of requiring stormwater, but we added stormwater in anyways.
all right, we're starting to go in circles.
All right.
We've covered things quite a bit. Nancy, is there one last question here?
Well, you're creating what looks like 3 more wetlands, right? I don't understand the sump issue having to do with the well. What is that going to be a hole later, or is that going to be
Can I answer that? I'll answer that.
Go ahead.
If you can, please. Thank you, Chairman. The sump is only for while you're drilling the well. There's slurry that comes out of the well drilling operation. It's ground up clayey, fine material that what we don't want to do is, so we create a hole. We let while they're drilling the well, the slurry goes into this hole, and then when we're done, we remove the slurry material, and in this case, we're going to restore it. And so, no, we're not creating another wetland. With the wetlands we're creating, it only helps to absorb the created wetland. It helps to both create more wetlands and absorb that additional rainwater. It becomes, even though it's minuscule, it's another place for floodwaters to be stored during that storm event that you just showed on the picture. It's just another slight storage area. Not that we're required to compensate storage capacity because we're not in a 100-year storm event, but this wetland will be created at the elevation of the existing adjacent wetland, so floodwaters can go in there. So that's not a detriment. That's only a positive point, although small. It's more that we put it in because it creates more wetland, to add wetlands to a project that we're doing as a point of mitigation. The small little rain garden, which is only 160 square feet, is only to absorb runoff coming off the lawn and put that, if there's both nutrients that are in lawn, of course, we're forbidden, I think, in your order conditions from, heavy nutrient loading, but it's still, any plants in that and the soil makeup in the bottom are designed to both absorb nutrients and slowly dissipate that stormwater back into the ground, which then it just ends up being on that slope and going down into the basin, the flat end, and going across the street. But we're not creating three wetlands. The upper wetland on the upper slope, although we're putting wetland plants in there, they're called FAC wet plants, which mean they can grow in the upland part of the time. That thing will most of the time be dry because it's not sitting in the water table. It's only there during storm events, and then if the water absorbs down into the ground, it's approximately going to be 2 feet above the water table, absorbs water back down, it takes out nutrient, and the other one, yes, it is a created wetland. So technically, we're making only one wetland, not three.
In creating new wetlands, there's never a guarantee that it's going to work the way it's intended.
Except for when I make them. One thing about creating wetlands since 1986, doing them for Mass DOT, doing them for all different projects, Hanover, I don't care, down in Mashpee or whatever. A wetland is not, you can read that in language, but a created wetland, what you're doing is ensuring that you have the water table to drive the plant species. You're ensuring that you have the organic soil material to grow those plants in. And if you make sure you have hydrology in plants, there's just like a created wetland when you dig a hole in the ground and 20 years later, there's a wetland pond there. That's a created wetland too. The problem with created wetlands is most people, just like I'll give you an example, Diamond Chevrolet, they didn't get into hydric soils. Ecotech built that one. They didn't get into hydric soils, and underneath the 12 inches of organic material, it was still, and I know it's only a number to you, 10YR46, 10YR44, which means to you that it didn't have water table in it. So if you don't get to the water table, you definitely will not have a created wetland. This will be at the elevation of the existing adjacent wetland, which guarantees that we're going to have that same water table that's driving the existing wetland, driving our wetland. So this one will work. It's very simple. It's the ones that they don't know what they're doing. And I can't say that I'm a world expert, but wetland creation is doing the same thing that the glacier did by bringing the land down to the elevation of the existing adjacent water table.
Well, I'm just going to have my last thing to say. I'm totally against this project. There's too much water back there. It's coming downhill towards this piece of property. What is it, like, what, 8,600 square feet of land, or what do you want to call that, to do all this change? And the wetland coming from the hill will have a definite effect on whatever's being changed there.
That's a speculative statement. It's your opinion, and I do appreciate the commission.
I know it's my opinion.
Well, we just
But
want
I
to
do
make that
live
point.
here. I've been here 50 years, and
50
it was
years.
never as wet as what it is now. My husband used to say, take pictures, take pictures. I happen to take those pictures just to show you the volume of water created in an overnight rainstorm. And that's not going to change. That's going to increase.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mary?
motion to close the public hearing?
I motion we close the public hearing.
Second,
Okay. Motion for issuing an order of conditions?
I motion we order an order of conditions.
Okay.
Joey, we still need the roll call vote for the,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
yes.
Mr. Brown, Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
All right.
Mary.
So we had
Okay.
So
Thank you.
all right, so Hayden was a yes on that, Mary. So Robin had a first on issuing an order of conditions. Do we have a second?
Just a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Yep.
We're expecting that Mr. Kravosky was gonna make a slight change to that plan. Right, because he was gonna move that, I forget the name of it, the
The
piece associated with the well,
Slurry pit.
Yeah.
slurry pit.
And change the arrow on the flow.
So as long as we capture those, then I would second.
Okay.
I don't want to hold up everything and wait for an update.
All right. So Michelle with the second. And roll call when you're ready, Mary.
Ms. Sherillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, Glenn, thank you
Thank,
much. I know the neighbors are concerned, but like I said before, I know you, the caliber of your work. You've done excellent work in our town, and
thank you.
you'll look after what we permit.
I will look at it, and I do control my clients. Well, Mary knows one that is more difficult than most, but we do work to control the clients. And if it's in the order of conditions that there's oversight, which I would hope there is, not for my sake, I don't care who oversights it, but there always should be oversight, and especially on these kind of cases.
Absolutely.
All right, we appreciate it during construction. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Have a good day. Appreciate it.
Thank you, you too. All right, can we take a 2-minute break? Real quick. All right, just a couple of things left, folks. We'll wait for Mary and anyone else that may have stepped away for a minute.
Hey, Joey, I have a hard stop at 8 o'clock tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Hayden.
Joey,
Yes.
I'm just making sure you could hear me.
Hi, Tom.
How are you?
Good, good. We'll be underway in a second.
Yeah, no problem. That Glenn seemed like a pretty smart guy.
I know a lot of environmental scientists because I work with a lot of consultants and environmental scientists for my job. And I gotta tell you, Glenn, he's a fighter, number one, but number two, he really, he can tell you from the smallest blade of grass to a speck of sand to, he knows the environment.
Yeah, that was long but interesting.
It's, this is what we're encountering a lot now, Tom, are small, complex lots.
Oh, I bet. Especially on the lake.
Our town is full of them. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so, Dan? Michelle?
I'm here.
Okay, just making sure we got a quorum. All right, so next up, 1 Wakefield Ave, Tom Flynn, and Gregory Gongaware, I hope I got that correct. Removal of buildup, roadway sand, from the cove between your properties. Of course, we're there on Sunday. And you've got a lot of buildup from a lot of debris and basically a sandbar that is formed in your backyard there. So let me ask you this, Tom, did you research and talk to the state about that permit?
I did. I called Kim Roth, Monday
Yep.
being the holiday. I spoke with her on Tuesday.
Yes.
She said, and she had said at this point, and I gave her my cell number. She said there wasn't anything more that we needed to do. She didn't seem overly concerned, and I thought she said she was going to speak with you. Have you spoken with her?
I have not spoken with Kim.
Because I gave her my cell number. I spoke to her about 1 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. She had the notice of intent. It sounded like it was in front of her, and she said, if I have to call you, I'll call you on my cell phone. And I got the impression that she was going to reach out to you, or that had she spoken to you at all about it?
She has not. I will say that the professionals at DEP are all working from home. And Kim knows that we meet on Mondays, so I'm wondering.
Well, no, because she also asked me when the meeting was, and I told her it was Thursday afternoon. But I did speak with her, and my impression was that she wasn't concerned, but I'm sure if you were to reach out to her, you just tell me what to do. But I did speak with her.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is no DEP number yet, so they may put comments on the DEP number.
All right, so we wouldn't be able to permit anything tonight anyway. So, and I would rather make sure that, because this is kind of the first time we're going with not the first time doing this project, but I want to make sure that we're meeting what the regulations are on this. And if you read the wetland regulations, if you're removing, and it's cumulative for a project, if you're moving 100 cubic yards of material from what's considered land underwater, which is what that is, it trips a 401 water quality permit.
Right, and I mentioned that to her, and she did. Yeah, but I at least when you talk to her, she's going to be informed. But she also, she told me that there was nothing more for us to do at this point. So I guess, like you said, when we get the number, we'll learn more.
Yeah, we'll have to, we'll obviously have to wait until you've got your DEP number to approve the project, and then hopefully by then we'll have an answer as to what she wants to do. You'll end up doing that permit through the internet anyway, and then it's at DEP's hands, and then they just let us know, okay, they've got the go-ahead conditions that you put in place. Okay, you'd be allowed to go forth.
Okay.
But just for the sake of, if anyone is here as an abutter and wants to know what's going on, as well as commissioners that didn't make it on the weekend, we've got over next to Lakeside Ave, coming off of Lakeside Ave near Wakefield Ave. There's a stream that flows down, and it empties into the lake over here, but it also carries a lot of material that with these larger weather events occurring, some sides of the roads are starting to get cut out. This property has been on my radar for a few years here. Mary will tell you I've been upset about the amount of rock that comes off their property, and you can see the rock all in right there. this is after a decent rain event, so it's a good amount of water and it's moving, so at a good clip. Now, where this, Mary, continue to cycle through, because I did take a few photos so people understand. So go back to the sandbar area.
All right. Hey, Joey, I got to hop off.
All right, thank you, Hayden. I do want to address a concern that I did notice when I was there for Gregory. You've got this nice little sand area, but you got to make sure that part of the sand that's on your property remains there, and it would be definitely a good idea to put some sort of something along the edge here, because I did recognize some stormwater flow and silts heading into the lake, which would add to the buildup right in this general area along the front of his property.
Yeah, Joey, and it's just off of this picture, but just this past season, we actually put some grasses along that edge so that it would hold that, as you're highlighting, because I had seen some of that sand, and actually it's not good for us either, but
Mary, if you go back one.
Grass along there so it would hold that, and
yeah, right here, see it?
Yep. So just onto the sandy area there, probably a foot in there, we planted a whole bunch of grass plantings along there to grow and ultimately capture that and hold it.
Okay. And then some of the other photos I had there, Mary, were of the town plowing right into, they come down Wakefield and basically take all the snow and throw it across the street.
I was after this picture. I don't know that would help explain.
Yeah, you can see those.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see them there. So those were planted there for the purpose that you're talking about. They're only one season now, so they should really take off this next year.
Okay. All right. I just want to, I mean, it's not a huge contributor, but it's something to keep an eye on, that, any kind of material going into the lake, we gotta, just mention. But this, is obviously a concern because it's going right into that brook, and then it's cutting across, it's cutting the road here. So we need to work with some, work out something about that. And then keep going, Mary. Obviously the deposit's there. Next one. Obviously the sandbar. Keep going. All right, so here, this, obviously there's pieces of asphalt here. This is an edge where you're coming up Lakeside, and the plow's coming around the corner and just plow. I mean, it just obviously takes a lot of the snow and piles it here. Snow and debris, I mean, because of plowing, it will end up in this brook. But I can tell here, this is direct plowing right in. So we really would probably want to talk with DPW. They need to stop doing this. And
I will say my wife has actually talked to them a couple times and brought this up, and we've had no success in changing it ourselves because they actually deposited it all right there at the corner. Around the corner at the stop sign, they just push it all right to that, which is right at the entry to where it will ultimately wash right down into the brook there.
Yeah. I mean, these guys, obviously, they work hard, and they just think this is snow, it's water, and I'm putting it in a water area. In a wetland area, it's just going to melt and become water. But under state law, you're not supposed to do that. sometimes you can't get away from it, but that's just how it is. But if we could talk to certain people, maybe train them and discuss the concerns, then we can see what happens.
John, when do you think you could do that? When do you be able to discuss it with highway people?
It's something that I want to talk to a friend of mine that she heads I think I brought it up last time. She heads the Palmer. She's the agent in Palmer, and she is part of the Mass Coalition, Mass Stormwater Coalition. It's called Think Blue. And she's developed a lot of best practices and actually is got a really good relationship with all of the DPW workers. And once she talked to them about protecting wetland resources, she saw a major decline in something like this.
Because we've been lucky this year with only one really big snowstorm. So it'd be good if it
We're not done.
I know. No,
We've
that's what
had
I'm saying.
snow
If we could
before, all the way up to
Yeah.
April Fool's Day, so.
Yeah, but
Should
if we could
dare
talk
jinx it.
relatively soon before the winter's over, in case there's
All right,
another
so
big-
next slide, Mary. Same area, just continuing up the road. Then the next one, I believe, is across the street. Yeah. This is the roadway. It's getting cut from stormwater, and it's entering here. This is all that rock. A lot of it's that rock from that corner home. Then the next one.
And if it matters, we actually get
Right.
fish in that little brook.
Yeah, right, and then right in here, this is across the street. Because they're dumping, here's the water, because they're pushing the snow here, and then in addition to stormwater runoff, it is actually slowly breaking the swale that they put in here. But also the swale is carrying a lot of debris, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to 100% get away from the debris, but stopping snow going into areas like this, because snow carries a lot of contaminants, and by contaminants I mean a lot of salt and a lot of sand and a lot of rocks and asphalt and trash. And here's some mud coming over from just being carried down the roadway. Continue. Yeah, this is, nope, that's the same pic, but they're plowing right to there.
Oh, this is Twisted Piston.
It's all right. I mean, folks, you generally get the picture. There's kind of a multifaceted issue going on here. We want to make sure that obviously water can divert from that brook into the lake appropriately, and having that sandbar there is not, it's kind of going around it. It's so built up now. So I think we asked you when we were there, Tom and Greg, how deep were you looking to have that taken out?
I think I originally thought like 2 feet on page number 3 of 9. I only guesstimated about 300 cubic yards, but I guess when we I would guess 2 to 3 feet anyway, just to get it back to normal or where it was.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Greg, were you planning on coming a bit over to the front of your house where you've got kind of the beach slopes down into the water?
Yes, because the sandbar, as tall as it is actually only built up over the last couple of years. Prior to that building up, it all came to the right. And then eventually what it does is it builds up so much. So all that sand you see to the right of that actually was what was originally flowing out of that creek and goes over underneath where our dock normally goes. And eventually it just piles up so much, it diverts itself out toward Tom's dock because of the sandbar there.
And Joey, the way I originally paced it out, where this is a great picture because where the brook comes in currently, I think I came about 10 yards on Greg's property and 7 yards on the opposite side. That's how I came up with the 17 yards shore-wise, 10 yards on Greg's, 7 yards, and then about 9 yards out.
Okay.
And that's what I, basically calculated. So
Okay.
on page number 3 of 9 of the NOI, I have the calc. It was 17 yards by 10 yards out by 2 feet deep. So that's how I came up with the basic 300 cubic yards. But that would be on page number 3 of the NOI.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
Now the company.
Right there, see the figure? Yeah, that's
Okay.
basically how but the 17 yards is 10 yards along Greg's frontage, 7 yards from the brook to about where my deck is, and about 10 yards out. Yeah, see that's how I figured it.
Okay. Now, the company that you're looking to potentially do this, have they done any kind of dredging before?
Well, I when we had done it in the past, we had just gotten someone with an excavator, and then I just thought that I just thought of Leo Crane. I figured they would have a variety of equipment, so it's been hard. I talked to Harry Leo, and he sent Jeff Dowgevich. So Jeff came out one day. Greg was home, so the three of us stood back by the gazebo where we were all standing, and he thought it would be possible to do it from Greg's yard, but then then we didn't know if Solitude did it, and Greg, if they did it from the water. So we're still at a and I haven't been able to get anybody to come back, but I thought, well, maybe they just aren't going to do anything until we get approval from the commission or the EPA.
Yeah.
Once they know, because they wouldn't touch this without, no one wants to touch it without permission.
Because one thing that you're going to have to put in there, just so you know, you're going to have to put a turbidity curtain across there. It's going to be a little bit hard because right now and into the spring, you've got flowing water, but you're going to absolutely have to have a turbidity curtain in there because all of this silt and material, once you start to excavate it, any kind of contaminants from the roadway, meaning oil and suspended solids, are locked in this. And if they get kicked up and it can get carried by the current, that's sending pollution, really bad pollution.
Do you have any recommendations of who could possibly do this?
I can talk to a few people and see if they know.
Okay.
Somewhat, it's not going to be, it's probably going to be just a couple, really a handful of scoops coming out of there.
And actually, the Dowgevich said, it's going to be more preparation and setup than actual, once they get rolling, it's probably going to be less than a full day.
I could see this getting done in a day, but the thing is, the turbidity curtain will need to be put in correctly, and it will need to stay in at least a few days to let things settle. And let them get back on the bottom. And that can take just a few days.
Yeah. It's not very deep anyway. So, but
yeah.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
So how do we? Do I just wait? Is the DEP going to contact me, or how does this work? Or should I call them again, or can you speak to her?
No. What I'll do is, obviously we've heard the project. We know the scope of it. We've seen it. Let me call. I'll call Kim tomorrow.
Yeah.
And find out. I'll obviously let her know that I heard that, you talked to her and.
Yeah, I'll be interested to say, because she didn't sound like she was overly concerned, but it'll be interesting to see what your conversation is with her.
Kim obviously, and I know Kim obviously from work, and Kim sometimes if she's got a lot going on, she can it can be perceived that way, and then suddenly there's something doesn't look right in a permit, or a permit's not correct, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. So I just want to make sure, exactly that we're doing this correctly.
Okay.
So, I guess is we'll just, because you still need your DEP number. So we'll continue it until the next meeting, which is February 1st on a Monday.
Okay, that's fine.
Because we can't close out a hearing until a DEP number is issued.
And is that issued to, like, will I get a letter, or how is it issued?
Oh yeah, you'll get notified. Yeah.
You'll get an email, and you can, it doesn't hurt to call them and say, hey, where are you in the process? Because sometimes that bumps you to the top of the list.
Okay. And would I call her? I mean, I've already spoken with her once. Is that what I want?
You can call. Yeah, I mean, you can call her. She reviews permits, but they've got other professionals that review them as well. But it could also be you haven't gotten one yet, because they're probably reviewing it, looking at satellite, looking at really digging into it, and they're probably coming up with comments. And that's one of the important things with that comes with a DEP number, is the comments from them.
Okay.
That sort of gives us a little bit of direction.
So, but if you can, on our behalf, if you were to reach out to her, can you?
Yeah, I can talk to her.
Yeah, can you just will you send me an email, or you can call me? I'd just be curious as to, how your conversation goes.
Yeah, what I'll probably do is, because I usually, Mary's our liaison and our professional for the board. I'll usually talk to Mary about it, and Mary will disseminate that information.
Okay, great. All right, terrific.
So, and, and of course, if you got any questions, I mean, Mary will, send it back.
When we came out for the site visit, and I had told Mary, I was just telling them how helpful you've been to me on the couple times we got together. She was very helpful with helping me fill out the application, or guiding me, giving me guidance. So I'm extremely appreciative to the time that she's given to me.
Yeah, she's I gotta tell you, she's something else.
Yeah.
That's Mary.
She's
Not
okay.
Mary.
All right. So
yeah, we won't take up any more of your time. So we'll just wait to hear back from you, and I'll be in touch with Mary via email.
Yes. Mary, can you send him something for a continuance?
Sure.
All right. So Mary's going to send you something. You just have to send it for the continuance. So we'll, plan on February 1st.
Okay.
Which is a Monday.
Be here.
So yeah, if you can't make it for some reason.
No, I'll be here.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, folks, to continue 1 Wakefield Ave to February 1st?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
All right.
Ms.
Thank you all.
Cirillo,
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Bach, Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
and Mr. Brown is left, I believe. Mr. Bach, are you back?
He's
All right, and then Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes.
Where is Mr. Bach? Well,
He's here.
Fred?
maybe he took a quick break.
He may.
Yeah.
his 2 minutes is longer than our 2 minutes.
All right, Fred?
I think there he is over there.
Are you seeing something that I don't see?
Yeah, he's on the right. Well, he's on my
Oh.
screen.
And the participants?
No, he's still on the screen. Wait a minute, maybe.
All right, Mary, let's,
He's still here.
at the end, we've already made it, so. All right, so next item, One Cobble Island, Jill and Carlo Tanzi. Install an on-site wastewater treatment. This is for, I believe, their septic.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jill Tanzi.
Hi, Jill.
How are you doing? I'm using my husband's computer. That's not my company.
All right. And do we have someone else?
Hi, Todd Chaplin from Mount Hope Engineering.
Oh, Todd Chaplin. Brandon Faniff told me to give you a really hard time tonight.
Oh, good. I saw Brandon earlier today, so.
All right, so you've done the tree clearing, I'm assuming, and now you're looking to move forward with your septic system.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we, I guess, Todd, take us through what's.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick summary of what we're planning out here. Obviously, this is an island, which makes it a little bit of a challenge for a septic system. We've actually done quite a bit of work on islands in Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island, and a couple others in Massachusetts. But besides obviously with replacing a cesspool that serves the existing house out there with an advanced septic system that has some treatment and will produce a much higher quality effluent to the discharge. But of course, there's logistical issues of working on the island itself. So I had actually laid out an email to the Board of Health director and gave her kind of our scope of work of how we thought we were going to approach this. And she seemed to be very pleased with what we were trying to do out there. We went out in, when was that, Jill? October? I'm sorry, November. We did some test holes out there by hand. Obviously, getting machine on the island is not simple as just driving your backhoe down the road and digging some test holes. But fortunately, the island is essentially very sandy with good soils out there. There's not a water table issue out there. We did 2 small test holes on essentially that flat crest on the eastern side of the island. And again, the soils are very suitable actually for septic system and effluent disposal. We're proposing a system that's very common to us. I'm not sure if you see them a lot your way or not, but it's an septic tank followed by a Advantex treatment filter. That's a product made by Orenco. They're approved by the state. We've used them quite a bit. The leaching field is what we call geomats, which are a very thin, shallow, narrow type of effluent disposal field. They're pressure dosed. So the effluent comes out of the house, goes into a septic tank. There's a pump within the septic tank at the outlet end that feeds this Advantex filter. It gets treated within that filter, comes back. There's a splitting valve. We recycle some of that effluent back to the septic tank. Some of it goes to this final pump chamber, which then doses the geomat leaching field. Logistically, we think this is really the best type of system to try to do out here on the island. We're going to use a fiberglass septic tank. The Advantex treatment unit itself is a fiberglass box with a media within it. The pump chamber is also 2.5 foot diameter or 2 foot diameter round fiberglass chamber. And then these geomats require very little site work, and they don't require a lot of gravel. There's basically a small amount of the C33 sand, which is just a very uniform sand that goes underneath the geomats after you remove the loam and topsoil there, which out there actually was just really a layer of a lot of pine needles and organic matter on the surface there actually. So, and that's essentially the system. It will, like I said, it will replace the cesspool that's been serving the building for all these years. So it's quite an improvement in that regard. We think it's the best site. It's really the flattest. It's essentially the center of the island. We've tried to stay away from the shoreline to the extent possible. We will have soil erosion control measures out there around all the work.
Okay.
I think that's about it, really.
What are you going to be bringing? Are you going to put something on sort of a barge and bring it out there? Or?
Yeah, I think the intent will be to bring a mini excavator out there. The geomats themselves won't be too bad. They're relatively shallow. We really just need to strip off maybe a foot or so of topsoil. So there won't be too much earthwork in that regard. And we're not really changing the grades too much.
Okay.
Obviously, we got to dig a hole for the septic tank. That's really the biggest excavation work. I suppose, you got to have a couple boys with shovels and do it the old-fashioned way. But, the tank is essentially 5 by 10, and we'll need to dig a hole 6 feet deep or so. So, it'll be a decent hole to dig there, but that'll only generate about 8 to 10 yards of material, and we'll keep that in the little stockpile area and keep that controlled with some soil control measures. And then we'll basically use that for some grading and fill around the septic tank and around that side slope there when we finish it up. So trying to keep the site work to a minimum.
What's going to happen to the old cesspool?
Actually, that's the top. Typically in that situation, we will crush the top of that cesspool, and actually any excess dirt we'll use to fill in that cesspool from when we're digging the hole for the septic tank.
Okay.
So we don't have any voids in the ground out there.
So it's been a bit of a challenge to find a barge to bring an excavator out. I think I might have one more option, but if you know anyone, that would be helpful. Otherwise, we need guys with shovels.
That's.
I have a question, just to make sure I understand your description. This is a septic tank, and then it outflows into this leach field, which really consists of this geomat and a sand bed. Is this typically designed the way a regular septic system is, based on how the water system is contributing in volume? How many toilets, how many sinks?
Well, it has its own set of loading rates, I guess, but I mean, the flow rate is sized on the number of bedrooms as typically done under Title V. There's a step in between. So we go to the septic tank that pumps it up into this Advantex filter, which has a geotextile type of membrane within this fiberglass box, essentially, that allows some biomedia to grow within the unit, and it provides some physical filtration as well as some secondary treatment of the wastewater. And then it flows back out of that tank by gravity to a splitter valve. We recycle some of that back into the septic tank. What we don't recycle goes into this final pump chamber, and that doses it into the leaching field. So it's considerably better effluent quality than a typical septic tank effluent.
Okay, so when there actually is what most of us would recognize as a leach field, correct?
Yes, the geomats are a leaching field. They're a form of a leaching field.
Right, rather than perforated pipe or something, yeah.
Correct. And obviously, perforated pipe and gravel would be a challenge, trying to bring gravel out there. Concrete flow diffusers would obviously be a challenge to bring out there. We did look at Cultec or infiltrator type plastic chambers as a leaching field. But the actual footprint of a conventional leaching field would be considerably larger than the geomat leaching field. So you would have you'd have a bigger footprint. It would take up more space on the ground. It would require more clearing, more earthwork, a lot of things that would be a negative out here on the island.
So how do you actually get from where will you drive the excavator onto this island? I'm trying to imagine, kind of your construction entrance, if you will.
I think I could probably answer that.
Point on the island that we saw.
Yeah.
If you look at where the dock is and you start heading towards the western shore, there's a peninsula area, which is very shallow and would be the most likely place. That came up when we were looking at the tree removal earlier in this project, and that there was a tree right in the middle of that particular path.
Right. And there was also an area up on the point near where the septic system would be, on that point, just to the right of it. There's a little gravel bar that sticks out there. It's kind of shallow. You could probably get a barge to come in right over there too.
Yeah, there's a bit of a gradual slope over on that side too that would get us pretty close to the leaching field rather quickly too. So
don't you think on the plan we should have that outlined?
sure, we can certainly add that on there. If I'll have to talk to Jill about where we really think the best spot to will be to put the machine on the island.
I think
I
it's
mean,
the
it's
only spot.
possible. I'm not sure if they will be able to land even right where the docks are and crawl up that bank. That's pretty steep there. Yeah, you don't think so?
I think that there's only one spot, and that's where you described. It's near that
Yeah,
big
right
rock.
on the southeast side of the island there.
Where's north? Yeah.
North's up.
Yeah, so it's kind of near where your arrow is.
Right.
There. Oh, you were just there.
So two things. Number one, are there any additional trees?
Any additional trees coming down?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, all right. So that
All the trees were cleared already, around 10 feet around the system?
Sorry, I can't hear. My kids are making too much noise.
I'm sorry.
Your question?
It says on the plan, all trees and shrubs within 10 feet of the system to be removed. They were already removed?
So there's no trees in that area, really, near the system.
Okay.
We think that we tried to pick that spot because there's a very limited amount of trees. There might be a little bit of brush right in that area that might have to go, but there's no, I don't believe there's any large trees right there.
No, and that's where really close to the old cesspools.
Now, what is the maintenance like on this after it's put in? Do you have to have a machine go out there and pump it out like a regular?
Well, you do have to try to pump a septic tank out periodically. Now that might be every 5-6 years or something in a situation like this where it's seasonal use.
Okay.
Typically, these facilities, you have a maintenance contract with the equipment supplier, and we've done these for lots of seasonal facilities. And typically, they would come out just like you would have your plumber maybe come out and shut something down in the fall and winterize things and open things back up in the spring. But typically, they come out and inspect. They check the pump that's in the system. They check the filter. There's small diameter leaching lines instead of 4-inch perforated pipe. They're essentially 1-inch perforated lines. They actually will like bottle brush those lines once a year and just keep those clean and free. So it's kind of nice in a way that the system actually gets looked at annually, or normally semi-annually, twice a year. So in this situation where they might have somebody come out in the spring and then come out again in the fall when they're closing the cabin up for the winter.
But when someone pumps it, what are the logistics there? Right, eventually it's going to get pumped.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to happen with a septic tank out there. I'm not sure what any other cabins out on the island do, if there's a small barge mounted septic pumper out in the lake or not.
Most likely it's a cesspool. But I would think that each time that you're sending a crew out there to look at it, do maintenance and have it emptied, you probably need to file an RDA with us just to let us know, and so we can permit it.
Yeah, I mean, the actual pumping of a septic tank is something that's going to occur very infrequently. The guys going out there to do their maintenance, that's just a guy with a
that's
tool
something
bag.
small, but I'm thinking more of, when you need to have it pumped, you'll have to notify the commission.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a system, it's not like this, but it's an active system and they check it once a year. And I have to say, and we live here year round and it hasn't needed to be pumped. He's like, I don't know, in more than 5 years. So this system may only need to be pumped once every 10 years. And it's good they check every year though.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I've had septic tanks, and when I was growing up, it didn't get pumped in 15 years, and it was still working fine.
Yeah, I mean, and a normal, I would normally recommend people, every 3, 4, 5 years. And again, it depends on how many people are in the house and all that kind of stuff. But, in a normal household of 4, 5, 6 people or something, I would suggest people pump a tank out every 3, 4 years. But, this isn't a year round, full-time residence. So
I was thinking the Tansies were coming to Webster and have an island, and they were gonna have all sorts of big parties and hundreds of people. Oh.
I don't know if I can get hundreds of people.
So, all right, so proper erosion control is gonna be in place. We're looking at, you're looking to try to find a barge to get the machine out there.
Hey, Joey, can I make a comment on the erosion controls?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why they didn't carry it just further this way. And I'm wondering if they can just carry the erosion controls further around towards the house.
sure, we can wrap that all the way up there. Yep.
Yeah, especially if there's a stockpile, and I would probably just for safety's sake,
Yeah, we added the stockpile just the other day. We might have not remembered to drag the filter mitt up around it.
yeah, I would just, put a filter sock or straw wattle around it. Just with these heavy rains, we don't want that stuff starting to, slide off the island.
You may want to try talking to Lakeview Marine.
Yeah,
They have a 25-foot pontoon boat that they've taken all the rails off, so it's effectively a barge. They use it for installing a floating platform for installing the docks.
if you call over there, Jill, talk to Susan or Rory.
Yeah, I don't think it can hold a mini excavator though. I've already talked to them.
Okay. Do they know someone that?
I talked to Paul Framboise.
Paul Framboise, yeah.
He has a barge too for rent. So I just have to see what they say about putting on a excavator.
Paul is head of our planning board. So Paul would know exactly what to do with this.
And I guess if worst case, I have to hire people to dig it by hand.
Yeah, they do have smaller equipment like dingoes that are basically walk behind machines.
Yeah, so something like that.
And those I think are about 600 pounds.
Well,
The leaching field could certainly be built with, and the trenching work could all be done with a pretty small machine. The septic tank itself is just going to be something that, they do need to be able to dig down 6, 7 feet. So.
Well, I think Fran and Dan and Fred are looking for work if they want,
In the old days, they'd send a couple of boys with shovels and get that done. So.
Yeah.
No, I'm quite happy on my welfare. Thank you very much. Okay, I paid all the money that I'm getting back, but
Yeah. Okay, so
Still kid on this plan? I don't see it. I just see a note.
We did add a note to that effect.
Yeah, it's right there.
Just to the left of the north arrow, we added that note.
Yep, but usually we request there's a site picked out for it and you actually put it on the plan.
Oh, you want to know where it's going to be? I mean,
Yep.
Okay.
if the state or if we do a visit during construction, we'll be looking for those things.
Okay. I mean, we can just
Or
show it up in the house or
environmental
something.
police is out there all the time, so if they seeing something going on, they could stop in and check. So you'd want to make sure that it's compliant.
Does it have to be in a specific location?
Um, I would put it probably next to a tree that's within grabbing distance. So if something were to happen, machine falls over, machine starts spewing some sort of fluid, that's what that purpose, the purpose of that spill kit is for. Stop
Okay,
it,
we can show that.
clean it up. So we'll want to show that, and then point of entry on the island, Todd. You can just obviously draw those things in, and then I would take the erosion control up to probably at least the corner of the deck.
Yep.
Not exactly the corner, but just extend it up further.
Yep, we'll wrap it up around there.
Anything else, folks?
Are we concerned about a barge carrying a machine? I'm just trying to figure out if there's any protection needed for a machine crossing the water on a barge.
I would suggest making sure that they have an oil boom.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And actually, there is normally over at Indian Ranch, there is the one boat that the town has that actually is equipped with that equipment.
So you want the oil boom should be just on the barge in case of an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What type of boat do they have at Indian Ranch?
No, it's not a barge. It's actually I believe it's for the fire department and rescue.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you strike out too, and Paul doesn't necessarily have anything available to carry something, you may want to actually ask the fire department. And because obviously they would be probably the first on scene if there were an emergency where something were to happen, and we have a excavator ending up in the middle of the lake. So, I mean, honestly, I don't foresee it happening, but no, I mean, we just got to make sure that we're prepared, but I would ask.
I don't foresee us getting the excavator because I've tried so many times, but
I think you just got to find, find the right persons. I mean, you could also, see, where Webster is the largest natural body of water in the state. So this actually is not a very common thing for towns that have lakes and ponds. We just happen to have islands. It's mainly the coastal folks that have, anything like that. So I mean, I can't even think of a community right now where that would have some sort of a barge. I mean, it might be, Paul is in water, and I'm sure he drills wells and stuff like that on islands. So, I think your best connection might be Paul.
yeah, I'll keep trying, but when it comes down to it at the end, it might be guys with shovels.
Well, actually, they do have tow behind excavators, which weigh in at about 1,000 pounds. I'm looking at a couple online.
Tow behind a boat?
No, actually, they're designed for being towed behind an ATV.
Okay.
But with one of them, you're now down to about 1,000 pounds, which may make it somewhat easier to get the equipment on the island. They're not huge, but I suspect that they would be big enough to dig your septic. And it's a lot faster than doing it by hand.
Yeah.
Well, if you think of a pontoon boat with 5 people on it and an average weight of 200, it's 5 guys. I mean, it's about the same. So
yeah, we have a pontoon boat. That's just, but I don't know if it can, Yeah, I think it could probably carry
It's
that.
just making sure that, you know, it's a calm day and it's, you know, it's wrapped.
Tied down.
Yeah, it's definitely tied down.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'd like to watch it. I think it'd be kind of cool to watch it go across the lake.
Yeah, can you imagine how many people are gonna be like, oh, wow, I've never seen something like that on West. All right, anyway, so this is a public hearing, so, commissioners, any additional questions?
Hey,
All right, anyone, that's here for this particular project from the public that has comment? All right, then, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing on 1 Cobble Island.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Sherillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Motion to issue order of conditions.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second,
I second it.
Ms. Sherillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
yes,
Mr. Wigglesworth.
yes. All right, so we're gonna put together an order of conditions for you as to, you know, how the project should go as far as, you know, safety measures, the spill kit, you know, things that we require as from the board. And Mary will get that to you as soon as she can.
Okay.
All right. Okay, if there's any questions, please contact our office and then, you know, after you get your order of conditions, you're gonna wait. There's a 10-day waiting period in Massachusetts, just so you know.
Yep.
All right.
All
Very
right.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. All right, so I am 124 Gore Road. Anyone here for 124? All right, motion to continue 124 Gore Road to February 1st.
I'll make the motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Sherillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
yes,
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Okay, so, first order of business on discussion items and other business, certificate of compliance, DEP 323-1091, 14 Wakefield Ave. This is construction of a house. This is next door to 16, the Carreras. Do we have a representative for 14 Wakefield Ave?
Yes, I'm right here. Pamela, how are you?
Hi, Pamela. How's it going?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Great. All right, so you are seeking a certificate of compliance?
I think, yeah, I think how we left it is she was gonna talk about, think about what kind of trees she would like to put behind her house or fence and come back to us.
Okay.
Yes, so this has been, the meeting that we had, it was so long ago, so I do apologize if I don't remember exactly where we left off. I did some notes here, but I believe we talked about that we were able to do kind of like a metal fence. Is that correct? Would you guys would allow that? And then also plant some trees?
So basically, essentially like what the Carreras are doing.
Yes, because what happened is that we moved in here in July. And so at that time, the trees were all green and nice. So we really, really like the view. And we wouldn't like, to put, and I know you also mentioned that we could do like a native planting fence along all the area that we have to put it, but that will just, I think that will block the view. So if we can do like that metal fence and then put also some trees, I don't know how many trees do we have to put. And I do see that you have here.
There, it looks like there's.
But I don't know where is it that we need to start planting the trees and where do we have to end?
Yeah, it was, you'd want to start just off the property line, I believe. There is specific measurement. I think it was every 6 to 8 feet, Mary?
Yeah, so I did put that it was every 6 feet.
Yeah.
However, does it have to go like on the side, starting on the side of the house, going towards the back?
It's just along the rear edge here, so nothing on the side, just right where you would meet his fence comes in somewhere around here, so you would meet his fence pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. We were a little confused because when the builder was here, he left some kind of pine trees here, and he actually told us that we needed to plant those, but it was on the side, like kind of put it like a fence in between the two houses, like with my neighbor, but that was 12 Wakefield Ave. So I wasn't sure if I needed to do that, like from there towards the back.
Yeah, no, you don't need, he didn't tell you the right thing, so there's no need to put any trees along between your house.
Exactly that where you're marking right now, that's where he said that we needed to plant the trees, and there's were like 8 or 10 pine trees that he left here.
Yeah, so those were arborvitae. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want them in the backyard, I would probably just stick them along the border. Maybe some privacy between you and your number 12.
Okay, but my question is, for you guys, you do not require for me to plant trees in the middle of the two houses?
No, not between the two. No, just between you and the wetland that's in back and exactly what's on the plan here.
Okay.
And a fence is a boundary that is okay. I mean, I would, if I had your lot, I'd probably want a metal fence too, where I can enjoy the view. Natives are definitely obviously preferred, but much like I explained to the Carreras next door, there's a lot of natives that are more, they're not huge trees. They will not grow up and be 20, 30, 50 feet high, like what you there.
Yes, and I know the last time you did, and I'm sorry I interrupted you, you did mention 2 kinds, and it was the only ones that I wrote down. And this was for the eastern white cedars and the eastern red cedars. So I was looking at the red cedars, they grow up to 30 to 30 feet. I don't know if that's correct.
They can get taller. If you look at the rate of growth on that, it will take them a very long time. My office is on a property where the property was designed by a famous landscape architect, Frederick Law Olmsted, and there's several cedar trees on the grounds, and they're probably about 40 feet, and they're 100 years old. So it takes them a long time to get up to that size. But
okay.
But the thing is with that is those are, you know, they're shaped in a way where if you just trim the top off, they'll, you know, you can shape them into something. So
Okay.
that's, you know, that's definitely an option. It was what was preferred for this area. More the white cedar, because white is found in swamps up and down the eastern seaboard, over the red.
Okay.
So, you know, given the wetland there and the water table, a white would be preferred. But I mean, if you wanted to do, there's, you know, look at some native plants. There's all sorts of different native trees that, like, I recommended next door to you, an eastern redbud. There are different dogwoods, native dogwoods here, and they, you know, all of those flower in the spring. They're really nice. So it'll integrate with what you're seeing beyond the fence.
Okay.
But keeping the integrity of that boundary that we were looking for when we permitted these two projects.
Yeah, Joe, I just want to make it clear for the commission and the homeowner. The homeowner, I mean, if she didn't want a fence, she wouldn't have to have one, right? I mean, what was required in the order was trees. And if she decided to do a fence because she wanted one anyway, it's potentially, maybe she could have fewer trees because the barriers there. I'm just curious, you know, what the commission would allow.
I'll be honest with you, this particular lot, I'm less concerned because the wetland is further back and you are not right on top of it like, you know, 16 is. So, I mean, I would be okay with spreading them out a bit further. I mean, but we put them closer together because we weren't thinking fencing and all of that when we were permitting these. We were thinking more of, this is going to bring back ecological system services and also provide a visual barrier that, you know, you can't develop beyond there. So, but I mean, if you know, you're liking it so much there and you want to space them out every 8 to 10 feet. I mean, we need to measure it out and then you know, get a number.
But Joey, to be a little more direct to what Mary asked.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with a fence?
I mean, I'm okay with a fence. I mean,
because we really want the barrier. So if the homeowner likes a fence and then wants to put up some trees to beautify the area, that works for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they hate fences and want just some trees as a barrier, that works for us as well.
Yes, that was my plan, or our plan with my fiance, to put the metal fence as a barrier and then to add some trees, just, you know, to hide that fence a little bit.
Yeah.
But not to cover the entire. I'm sorry.
To make it blend in better, your fence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put the trees there to make it look like it all belongs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Have we seen the back of the house? Is it in good shape? I don't remember
That's it.
last time anybody was back there.
Yeah, and actually, I've been on 16 a lot, but I never did go back behind 14.
We never
since
looked
it's
at
been
14.
sold. Yeah.
Right, because we want to make sure it doesn't have erosion problems or anything weird going on back there.
Yeah, like the Carreras have a terrible erosion problem, which reminds me, Mary, maybe check in with them.
Okay, yeah.
Please.
So I'm wondering if it makes sense for someone to visit and kind of mark out the line where a fence would go and just make sure everything is healthy and happy back there.
Right.
I think that's the way to go.
That will be
You can't plant
helpful
anything.
for us too.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't be able to plant anything now until about at least middle to end of April.
And you can't put a fence in now either. Sticking the post is pretty hard.
people are so desperate for work right now, Michelle. I mean, people, they'll find a way. They'll use like an electronic or gas powered.
I wish tree guys were that desperate.
All right, so Pamela, why don't we work out, we usually do our site visits on Saturdays.
Okay.
Are you available on a Saturday for if we came by for about minutes
Yes. Yes.
to just walk around the back there and just take a look and see what it looks like, you know, post-development, like, you know, Michelle had said, you know, making sure we don't have an erosion issue. Just seeing how things have sort of healed back there since everything got bowled over.
Yeah, and just a final question, just so for my notes and for when we actually go to look at a certificate of compliance, once the trees are in, do we want to just come up with, since we're not doing every 6 feet or whatever, you know, the trees are made more of an accent to a fence. Is there a number of trees, Pamela, that you were thinking of planting or that the commission would want to see planted since the fence is acting as the main kind of barrier?
I don't have a particular number that I can propose because I have no idea.
Right.
Well, look at it this way. If 6 of us show up at your house, okay, on a Saturday, we can all stand with our hands in the air and pretend we're trees.
Okay. You guys will figure that out at the site visit.
Yeah, you
That's
can
fine.
space us out.
Well, you know,
Okay.
positions.
I have my kids here.
Yeah, so we'll come by. Mary will be in touch on a site visit in the next week or so.
Okay.
And we'll come by and we can get a chance to meet you and you know, talk about what's going on there and bounce some ideas and talk about the fence.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yes, that sounds like a plan.
All right, wonderful. So Mary will be in touch then.
Great.
All right, thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you. You as well.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, 21 Bayview Road, Certificate of Compliance, DEP number 323-1075. Is anyone here for 21 Bayview Road?
You know, I'm guessing that Jane is here for the next one, 20 Bates Point.
All
And I
right.
don't see,
Yeah.
maybe we can take care of Jane first.
Okay.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
So, Certificate of Compliance for DEP number 323-1033, 20 Bates Point Road. Jane,
Yes.
welcome aboard.
Thanks.
How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Great, great.
So we've been on from the beginning.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm like, I don't know. I guess I don't know how long this takes. Well, now I know.
Yeah, our certificates of compliance are always at the end because it's more quick business.
Okay.
Well, hopefully it was a learning experience.
It was.
All right, so we're gonna take a look at your pretty house.
Thanks.
All right, so this was an order of conditions for a 2nd story addition.
Okay.
And work is done. I'm not sure that they did. I know they were before us a few years ago to talk about finishing off some of the landscaping stuff. And everything looked good. You guys may remember there's an ongoing issue with the neighbors at 18. The neighbor at 18 had complained about rocks being installed. I don't know whether Jane wants to speak to that. I didn't notice anything that looked
No,
out of the ordinary, but
he's just that way. He imagines things sometimes because he had conservation and he did so many things. Oh, rocks on the side?
Yeah.
No, not this, Mary.
He's talking about, he took a panel of his fence down.
he then put a big metal toolbox or like almost a dumpster there, and he tries to push it across the line into our yard so we can't walk between our shed and our backyard.
Right, so those rocks were just landscaping rocks that we had, and we had the police out here that
He called us 5
He
times.
called
All
everybody.
right, hold on.
He's,
Hold on.
he-
All
yeah.
right. So we've got a problematic neighbor that is, I am so surprised that you have that on the lake.
It's the other side of the
It's
yard,
the other
though.
side of the house.
Yeah,
So,
the other side.
All right.
It's the-
So
Joe's fence line at 18.
It's Joe's fence line. What happened was there were stones there. There were stones there. You can't even see. You see, if you
Yeah.
stop right there.
There's
You
our
see where that
shed.
shed is there?
Yeah.
Right next to that shed, right? You're putting your thing right there. There were stones there.
Okay.
I guess it was for drainage or whatever. And we raked it together and we just added a little bag of that because it was there. And he's just mad at us because we had called before because he tried to build a garage without a permit. And when we stopped that and had him go through the proper channels, he just calls for every little thing. But everybody always comes out and says, no, Mary, I know you've done this. You've come out about the
Health
water
department's
off the
come out,
shed, the
Ted's
health
come out.
departments come out, Ted's come out. And
Fire
every
department, police department.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Every
come
department in
on.
Webster, swear to God. And every time they say, sorry, sir, sorry, sir. So that's just another one of his things. But that was never in an order of conditions or
Right.
anything like that.
Yeah,
We
so
moved-
I think everything's pretty good here.
Right.
The property looks, I mean, it looks good. I mean, the rocks in the beach or the shoreline rather, I mean,
Those big rocks?
yeah,
Or
did you?
these big
Yeah,
rocks were there.
he
Those were
hasn't-
all there. See these little rocks right here?
Okay.
Back before, I guess it was when Bo Sad was on the and Rich Franez, I think we asked if we could put some small rocks there, and they said as long as we had a border that they didn't go into the water, and that little dock is on land actually, and it
Okay.
just stays there. Yeah.
All right. No, I mean, I wasn't gonna say, oh, I don't agree with that. I mean, given the wake energy and action on this lake, I would say, keep them there. I thought those were the rocks that he was complaining about.
No, and the big rocks they were there. We want to keep them there because of erosion and whatnot. Exactly.
Yeah, but I would just make sure, that those small rocks, because I can see where they're kind of scattering a little bit. Make sure they're staying contained.
They do.
Okay.
They not even one pebble goes into the lake because in front
They
of
hit the
those,
dock.
in front of those, there's other big rocks, and then that dock goes and that
Okay.
dock goes there, so it does not go in.
All right. So, Mary, so no concerns, everything looks good?
Yep.
No erosion, all that stuff?
Yep, everything looks good.
Any commissioners with questions or concerns?
No.
Do we want to make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for DEP number 323-1033, 20 Bates Point Road?
I'll make the motion to issue the order certificate of compliance.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Second, okay.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. So, all that time. 3 minutes.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, you
Thank
too.
you.
Good night, folks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, so we'll talk about 21 next meeting and everything. I'm glad.
I do know that 21 is trying to close, but one of the people got COVID, so I don't, that's probably why he's not on tonight, so.
All right, anything else, folks?
Yep, I got a question. I got two questions. So Cobble Island,
Yeah.
is that an new NOI we just approved?
Yes, so they
NOI
had
for
an
the
NOI for the
trees.
trees and because, yeah, that was kind of partially my fault, but anyway, they ended up doing 2 NOIs. Yep.
So shouldn't we get a certificate of compliance on the first one if they're done, so they don't have 2 running?
That's a good point.
We don't usually do that.
Yeah, I'll touch base with them and see if they're ready for that.
I
And
don't, why, it's a good point, Michelle, but they're gonna eventually end up raising that house. And there could be additional trees that come down, and if they've got an open order on the trees, we can just amend the order.
But the DEP didn't want them extending to the septic according to their letter and wanted them to do a new NOI for septic. So I don't think they're gonna like extending to raising in the house.
no,
Oh, no, I'm not saying extend the house onto the tree. I'm saying leave that open as the tree NOI.
But we never do that. We always have one NOI at a time. So I don't know. It just,
well,
I mean, I'm a fan of one NOI per home, but it sometimes doesn't,
I would think that the reason that it's frowned on is you could end up having the certificate of compliance going against the wrong NOI. And we have enough problems with getting the stuff on the right property.
and the right deed. So now they're gonna
Yeah.
have 2 orders of conditions on their deed.
I mean, we can always, if they need to take down more trees, it can just go on when they do the house. I mean, I just thought, there's an NOI for the trees, why not just?
Yeah, sure,
Why don't we just close that out if they're done?
Yeah, because if they have to remove more trees, it's probably going to be as part of a new project. And if it's just pruning out some trees for basically forestry, that could be done on an RDA.
yeah, I guess so. Typically for a certificate of compliance, I do a site visit. It might be hard this time of year to get out there. But maybe since it was, so anyway, I'll reach out to them and find out what they want to do. So
I just think we should try
Yeah.
to clean it up, even if we can't now.
right, definitely, I agree.
We're done.
And maybe that can be part of we can make even that part of the order. I mean, they're not going to start that septic system until spring anyway.
Right.
We get that COC for this other one.
Yep. And then I don't know if you were gonna go over the agent's report.
Is there something, did you take a look at it? Did something stand out?
I
Kenneth
just
Ave?
read really quickly.
Yes.
Black Point. It looks like they got the DEP number on a tree, and where's the mailbox?
Yeah,
And
Black Point, I
The
think,
dumpster's not covered.
let's look
Chop,
at Black
chop,
Point.
chop.
I was, and then there's Kenneth Ave, I thought was very disturbing, or not disturbing, anyway. Loveland Road, that wasn't bad. This guy, he went ahead, anyway.
We can't see Mary.
I'm sorry, I didn't share. It's getting late. Share screen.
Sorry to be a pest. It was more Black Point. I'd like to keep them
Yep,
on top of everything.
Black Point is definitely. All right, that was. Okay, here's Black Point. Yep, he's got his number in a tree, sure enough.
It's in order of conditions. They can't do that.
Right.
Can't be on the telephone pole either.
The order of conditions should be in a mailbox. We also have that as a condition.
Yep.
So I'm sure if you saw it on one site, it's the same on other sites.
Yep.
And the dumpster's not covered. And last time I was at Black Point, the lot was a mess. Had stuff everywhere.
Okay, so.
And their erosion controls need work too, huh?
They do. Yep. Where is it? The picture. Yeah, like wrong here.
Yeah,
Yep.
those need to be fixed.
They need some fixing. Down here it looked okay. Yep, and then this was the neighbor, that looked pretty good. It was Kenneth Ave, this thing, because he never called for a pre-construction meeting.
I'm a little bit.
This one is, he does have his curtain in. It's pretty, and it's much bigger they changed the plans from what they had on the plans. I mean, it's much bigger. It's huge.
So we need to stop them if they're working beyond what we permitted, don't we?
Yeah, it's, you know, the plan says retaining wall designed by other. And it, like, I think the original plans, the wall was going just this way. It doesn't include this whole section. I'm thinking. I think maybe I just need to call him and kind of find out what's going on. It's possible we could stop him. I don't, yeah, he did not ask as far, I don't, unless he called me, I don't have any notes of a pre-construction meeting. He may have called last spring when I couldn't do site visits. But I don't think so. I think there was only one like that I didn't get to.
Yeah, so I don't think we should let him continue being rogue if you already have two instances where he's kind of going off on his own.
Yeah, we've got the.
Who's the developer, Mary?
Well, I don't know who, oh, the contractor. I did take a picture of the truck. Let's see if it's, oh, it's not in here, but I do have a picture of the truck. It's a landscape company. No one I recognized. And it's the homeowner who is Colby Petrillo, I think, is the name of the homeowner.
I don't quite remember. Petrillo.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember. Oh,
This is the house that has the, like, the hemlocks here. It was a really
yes.
steep bank.
He was originally going to do stairs and out and then stairs, and then he decided to.
And he had, it looks like there's going to be 2 terraces.
Okay, yes, I can't imagine his neighbor is very happy with that. His neighbor didn't really want the hemlocks to go, but the hemlocks were diseased.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they were ratty looking too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at the hemlocks. I'm like, you really should keep them. And I looked at them and I was like, ooh, these need to go. They got what is it, black spot disease. Yeah, because I could totally. We get rain for more than one day.
Yeah.
Rain, that is going to end up all down in there.
Yep. It's very, I mean, very steep. Yeah. I happened to notice this from across the lake. I was doing an administrative approval and I'm like, what on earth are they doing over there? And then I realized which site it was.
Yeah, I think.
Well, it's definitely entirely different from when we were there.
That is
actually really pretty, but
I don't remember it being that chewed up.
I don't remember us. We were on that deck, and remember we were looking through trees and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, I'm almost positive we didn't tell him to clear cut the back."
No, I thought he was putting like a terrace and some stairs because it's really
exactly
steep.
what he talked about.
Yep. So I think we need to put a halt and figure it out.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Have him come to the meeting.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen things already that are problematic.
Yep. Yep. It's yep.
I mean, I'd rather be tough early so we get it done right.
Yeah. And even this, like his access here, it's
Like
so
all
steep.
raw.
He needs it to, one thing I've been, Joe was so good about remembering, all right, it needs a track mat.
Yeah.
Mat, that's one thing, and I thought about it today. Glenn had a track mat, and it made me think of Joe going, and track mat. We got to start making sure that those are on plans.
Hey, I asked for the construction entrance on Cobble Island. I was channeling Joe.
Yes.
What's the flavor of the board? All right. So you'll obviously communicate with them. I bid you very good luck on Black Point Man.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we know
it's just keeping up with a lot of these developers. They don't think of the fence, silt fence. It goes up and it's like set it and forget it.
Yep.
So, all right. Anything else?
I'll be quiet now.
What is all that rock?
This is, yeah, this is 12 Black Point, and I don't know this was an RDA, if you guys remember. Remember, he had problems here. I don't know if this is what we finally agreed on, but that's what he did. I didn't check the RDA to see what we had told him to do.
I remember talking to him about it because he's obviously in arbitration with next door,
Yeah.
but I don't remember. Why would he put rock there when he had an erosion problem? There was a gully and he put large rocks in it. Why would you put this fine?
Yeah, and the erosion problem was down here. I didn't take
Yes.
a walk down there.
It looks
Yeah.
like it's actually still an erosion problem where it's failed down there.
It does look like it's not so good down there.
Well, I guess we got to, I like how he put the wood there so that he can put good loam down. And
he has a pretty good lip actually on the wood, so that was positive.
Yeah, but I think he's going to put, unless he's already done it, he's going to put loam down because it was just construction.
Yeah.
They put in there?
It might have been loamed and seeded. I didn't look very closely. It should be probably some straw though.
Yeah, Fred and I were at this site. Fred, you remember this one?
Vaguely.
He was the gentleman that said that his foundation cracked because of the machines next door with at Black Point.
I don't remember that, but it's it would be quite possible.
Yeah, I was with you on this.
I've been to a lot of sites in my time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would maybe look up what we approved on that, Mary, when you get a chance.
Yeah, I'll look that one up.
All right. Anything else that's pressing?
Nope. The more you drive around town, the more problems you see. It seems like every day I go out on site visits, I see something.
Yep.
That's why I don't walk in my neighborhood anymore.
Yeah. All right, so do I want to make a motion for adjournment?
Well, since
the motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
There's Fred.
I'll second.
All right.
I gave everybody a chance.
Meeting adjourned at 9:22.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a
Thank you.
good night, everyone. Thanks.